And welcome, ladies and gentlemen, a call to order the Clackamas County Board of Commissioners meeting this June 26, 2014. First of all, I'd like to welcome, standing in from our legal staff, Kathleen Rastetter, standing in for Mr. Madcore. And now, Mr. Krupp, if you'll do the roll call.
Certainly. Commissioner Bernard.
Here.
Commissioner Smith.
Here.
Commissioner Savas.
Here.
Commissioner Schrader.
Here.
Chair Ludlow.
Here. Would you please rise and join with me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. In the first order of business, as we have deemed so, is citizens' communication. I'd like to call forward Ben Hungerford and Steve Bates. Either one of you can go first.
All right. Good morning. I'm very nervous. My name is Ben Hungerford. I live in Dagmar Road, just off Jennings in Milwaukee. And I live on a 10-acre farm. We're inside the urban growth boundary, but we're in the unincorporated Clackamas County area. I raise chickens and a commercial floral crop. I am trying to get a variance for owning roosters and for being a commercial farm. There's 2 pages to this, what you have in front of you, and due to time constraints, I'm just going to read the back page. It starts off with due to the 3 minutes on the top there. So Kim Priest of Code Enforcement first alerted me to our rooster violation in August of 2013. She suggested I talk to Rick McIntyre on planning and zoning to get a variance permit. Over the course of 10 months, many conversations, emails, fines have taken place. Ms. Priest continues to send me fines because apparently she didn't realize that I was working with Rick McIntyre to resolve this issue. So I sent Mr. McIntyre a map that he requested of the property layout to see where the chicken house was in comparison to the property lines and things like that. And I CC'd it to Ms. Priest. So hoping that she would see that I had been and was working to get this permit. She responded with the letter to send the check for the variance of $635, which I did. It dawned on me that I've been a farm all this time and have been getting farm deferral from the county. Perhaps this would help our standing. And so I wrote this to Mr. McIntyre and to CC'd it to Ms. Priest again. Mr. McIntyre responded that it didn't really matter because we were inside the urban growth boundary and this takes precedent. Mrs. Priest responded with an administrative citation for operating a commercial farm in R15 zoning district without a verification of nonconforming use. That was totally unexpected. I asked Mr. McIntyre if I should talk to you today or wait until his paperwork had finished, and then I brought up the farm issue, and he responded there in that little section. I would recommend that you wait on the outcome of this verification of nonconforming use. The file number, the notice should be going out soon for public and agency comment. I didn't expect comment on it. I just thought he would take it and say, oh, yeah, it's obvious, this is okay. So when I heard that, I thought, oh, I'm going to come in and see what you guys can say about this. So I've come to you today because I would like to continue doing what we have been doing for the last 50 years on this property. My parents bought it in 1948. My mom still lives upstairs. We continue to farm it and raise animals and children. And as I told Mr. McIntyre, I understand rules are needed. Roosters or tractors under a 10-foot setback from a neighbor's bedroom window can be annoying. But in my case, this is not happening. I am in compliance with the county's rules, just not the urban growth boundary rules. I have over 100 feet of property line between my chicken house and the property line. So I'm obeying by those rules, but I'm not, since I'm in the urban growth boundary, that's what's killing me. So I feel like an airport whose neighbors have moved in and complained about the noise. The Hungerford families had this farm for long before the suburbs arrived and the urban growth boundary was established. Most of the neighbors around us want us to remain a farm and enjoy the fact that they live next to a farm. One neighbor said that they are an asset to our neighborhood and in fact was a determining factor in our decision to purchase our house. So I have 9 letters from my neighbors, all sent to Rick McIntyre to get this resolved. And so now I'm here for you just to say, I thought this would be a little sooner. Somebody could just say, oh, it's obvious that the urban growth boundary rules are not exactly applying to you because you don't have a 100 by 100 foot lot. You've got a 650 by 650 foot lot. So it's a little different.
Well, several commissioners want you to hang around for a second. So Commissioner Smith.
Hi, this is one of the more absurd things I've heard that government is trying to do. You have a 50-year-old farm, and now I said, gee, I can't do that. I have a couple questions, and then I have a comment. Kathleen Rassiter, is farming prohibited inside the UGB?
No, I don't know that personally, but we would look into it.
Well, I think it's ridiculous, and I think this activity should occur. I do not think that he should be fined, and this really needs to be looked into. And if you have a farm for 50 years, it's only been a farm, why would you apply to any government agency to raise a few chickens? I mean, this is going beyond even what common sense and reason is all about and fairness. Also, there's an Oregon revised statute that says there is a right to farm. I would think that would trump anything any government or individual citizen would do, and that right to farm statute's taken quite seriously, and it is designed for long existing farms. When people move in and they haven't lived there a long time and they object to a tractor at 5 o'clock in the morning. Well, that's when farmers do the work. In fact, grass seed is farmed in, what do you call it? It's not combine, it's different. That's done at night only, because that's the only time the seeds come off the stems. Okay, so that goes on all night long. And I think this is one of the most absurd things. I'm thankful that you brought this forward. Rural Clackamas County, that's what we do. That's what we farm. And I want this personally investigated, and I know I will be talking to some folks about that to make sure this happens. And Don is already writing it down.
Yeah, before I get to the next commissioner, if they're lined up, Mr. Krupp.
I don't know that particular part of the zoning code well enough to answer your question. I will be following up with respect to that and get back to the commission as a whole. I did receive a copy of an email in advance of the meeting from Kim Priest that was sent to the Commissioner Policy Coordinators about this particular matter. It involves a complaint that had originated back in August of 2013. As I understand, the property in question lies within the urban growth boundary, and therein may lie the code challenge or question that we're going to have to deal with. Happy to follow up, though, and get better details about that. And as I understand the sequence of events, that Mr. Hungerford was advised in September of 2013 about the need to apply for what's called a verification of a non-conforming use, and that had been submitted then on March 4th of 2014, and then that application hadn't gotten processed until the receipt of the fees for the application, and that apparently the fees for the application had been received in May 29th of this year, or excuse me, on June 12th of this year. So the enforcement is suspended while this particular verification of nonconforming use application is being reviewed. I am aware that Mr. Hungerford has been receiving what are the standard notices related to ongoing open violation cases relative to the monthly administrative fee. But my understanding also is that if compliance is achieved, all or a portion of those may be waived. I can't speak to the policy question for you right now that you're asking about the regulation that applies to what would be a farm activity within a urban growth area boundary, and I'm happy to find out a little bit more about that. And this is, the information I have here is simply the sequence of events that have occurred to date. So I will follow up for you and get you the information, and happy to work with Mr. Hungerford in the follow-up.
Commissioner Bernard.
Well, I also think this is absurd. From Milwaukee, I can tell you that the Cheragino farm, which has been there before I was born, Christmas Tree Farm, and the Siri family out of Damascus. I think it's actually might be Happy Valley. Within the urban growth boundary, I remember when all of a sudden all these houses popped up around them. People complaining about the smell of the fertilizer and the tractors. That's why that bill was created, a right to farm. And you're not, and where exactly is this?
Dagmar Road, off Jennings Avenue.
Oh, my God.
It's,
I mean,
it's kind of on a ridge. There's about 100 acres of woods up there.
Yeah,
It's kinda tucked in.
I know what you're talking about now. I mean, that's just absurd. You're a farm that's been in existence 50 years and is surrounded by, it's grandfathered as far as I'm concerned. And that's the way it should be. And you're right. I mean, this letter says we really can't interfere, but sometimes I think there's just misapplication of enforcement, and this is an example of it. One neighbor complains because the roosters crow in the morning, which I happen to love that sound, by
I
the
do
way.
too, yeah.
I live right at the edge of the urban growth boundary, and I love that sound, just like I love the train sound. People do complain against it. Anyway, I just think it's absurd, but we'll look into it and see what we can do.
Commissioner Savas.
Well, I kind of love the sound a little bit, and you know, in the mornings I need to wake up. The rooster that I can hear, which is not yours, is nice because it wakes me up. On Saturday and Sunday when I want to sleep in, I really don't like the rooster. But this rooster, he crows almost all day long. But waking me up in the morning is the only part that I don't have a quarrel with it. But some of my neighbors do. I know where your property is. It's in Oak Grove, for the most part, neighboring right in the edge of Gladstone, on the top of the hill. You know, there is a policy question here. Tuesday night at the Jennings Lodge CPO, we had one gal from planning give an explanatory overview of what the Planning Commission is currently working on. That's going to come before us, I believe, on July 31st regarding revisions to the residential codes, zones. And so she was rolling out the areas that are to be changed. And some of them are really some really great changes that I'm looking forward to. I think that are going to really help a lot of people out. But some of them are changes that things that are currently in existence would basically be, I guess, outlawed, so to speak. That's the best way to say it. They would no longer be legal. Mm-hmm. And my question, because I heard a lot of things that would really put a lot of people in a harm's way, so to speak. They would be subject to a code enforcement to some degree. And my question to her at the group was, well, what about all those folks that currently have those, and there's a lot of them, whether it's little storage sheds that they bought, that now are going to be under a different classification perhaps, or where you didn't need a permit, which now, maybe that, that the setback or the size or the, on a larger property, maybe a half acre or a couple acres, they have more than one. And there would be limits to those. So now they would really be outlawed. And to me, that's just really kind of, I won't say unfair, but maybe it is unfair. But we need to have a policy discussion about pre-existing situations. And the response, it was probably a correct response. She rebutted, well, if they were legally established, then, and we have a record of them, then they would have some standing. Well, that might be fine, but there are situations where, and I can tell you personally that on a storage shed, you don't need a permit. There is no permit needed. And now that shed on a property, even on mine, would probably be not legitimate, perhaps. I got to study it a little bit more.
What's your address?
Yeah.
It's on here. Oh.
But there's a lot of those out there, and my concern is, and we hear this all the time, is, well, geez, that's just really not fair. It's a matter of equity, or they've been established for a long period of time, and whether it's farming, and some of these aren't necessarily farming issues, and they're not. They're just someone's got a property and they put up a building and it was not a permit required because it was within a certain size, and now it's not, or it could be not by virtue of what we do on July 31st. So I think there's a policy discussion on how we handle pre-existing situations such as this. And just because it becomes illegal one day, I don't think it should impact others that did it legitimately, or perhaps purchase a property, and we've come across those. So there is a policy discussion we need to have, and I think, again, that local farms in the Oak Grove, Milwaukee area or an unincorporated area add some value. They're a refreshing sight to see that someone's out there farming within the urban environment.
Commissioner Schrader.
Yeah, thanks for coming today, and I know I agree with what's been said, and I think we need to look at the policy. But on a positive note, I wanted to let you know that we have a very robust agricultural investment plan, and we also have developed what we call an agricultural one-stop, so farmers and people who have questions and have issues can actually go through the portals there. And the other thing is Clackamas Community College has now instituted a program on urban agriculture where people who want to do what you're doing actually get some training. So it sounds as if where we're going with what I would call, in your case, urban agriculture, we haven't kept up with the minutia of some of our policies. Right. But we do, that's right, but we do support urban ag in our investment plan and in our economic development plan. So I think from that perspective, if you can contact the horticulture department at Clackamas Community College, and if you take a look at our economic development website and pull up all the information on our ag investment plan, because we are trying to get farmers who can supply food to the greater Portland area, local product and local stuff, and it seems that you fit that. And the college would really, I suspect, really like to have you as an education resource on urban farming with
That's where I first met my wife, is
chicken.
on a kindergarten tour to our house.
Oh, really? Okay. And now, so you do just chickens, or you do?
No, we have chickens, rabbits, dogs.
Okay.
I wound up with a horse last year.
Oh,
It's kind
okay.
of wild. But,
Well, it'd be interesting for you to get involved in those programs, because they're going to be hopefully building a James Beard Market in downtown Portland, and we've been kind of watching that very closely, not because, we love Portland, but it's an opportunity for our local producers to actually kind of be the first in line to make sure that they're supplying the local produce and local goods and services. So help do that. Thanks. And hi, Rob. I see. Is Rob your?
Yeah, he's my brother.
Hi. Nice to see you, Rob.
He's in trouble. That's why we're picking on you. It's because of Rob.
Okay.
I told him to come along just in case I make a mistake. He can stand up and say, no, scratch that.
Well, Ben, I appreciate you coming for us today. You've heard from the other commissioners that we'd love to look into this. But we all must agree that this is an anomaly. There is not much UGB property in Clackamas County currently being farmed. Yep. And because I'm a real estate broker, I will tell you that question has always come before me at times. You say, well, this is right next to a farm. As some people have mentioned, it is very nice to live next to a farm. And the specific choice is if the people don't like the farming practices, how about we just put the same type subdivision they live in right behind them? And then all of a sudden, that usually changes their mind. On every earnest money agreement when you buy, it says that you will not object to standard farming practices. And that law was put into effect because they tied up the effectiveness of farmers simply by complaining. They didn't like the tractor running at 5 a.m. They didn't like the spray going down, So you have backup, people next door saying that they love your farm, so that helps too. But the only thing we can do is, by the way, it would be interesting to find out, is it who made the rule? Was it Metro that said that, or was it Clackamas County? And you've been encouraged to apply for a variance. I hope that you follow through with that. And as Mr. Krupp has explained, during that process, the enforcement will be suspended. And that means fines as well. And we hope we can get to the bottom of them. Appreciate you bringing that before us today.
It took me a moment to say, wait, I'm spending $635 so I can have a rooster. Now, wait a minute, I got to think this, But then the
Well, we
farm-
can always bring in peacocks. They're so lovely, too.
Yeah.
They never make a sound. Mr. Krupp, I'm sorry. We already talked about you. Mr. Bates.
Chair Ludlow and Commissioners, good morning to you all. In case you don't remember me, I'm Steve Bates from Boring. Chair Ludlow, on behalf of the people of Boring, I want to thank you for your participation on June the 9th for our international reception. Your participation, along with Senators Olson and Thompson, rounded out the evening very well in welcoming our Scottish visitor. I wish to change the subject to the May 20th election. The past 5 weeks have been interesting, to say the least, at least from my vantage point. As the election results have been close from the first returns, I maintained a commitment to the 28,318 people who voted for me to be methodical, thorough, and deliberate in reviewing the data as it became available. The certified results to the Secretary of State showed that Steve Bates won 60 precincts. Jim Bernard won 53. There were 5 that were tied. We were only 239 votes away from a November runoff and 763 votes away from an outright win. We identified what we thought were some anomalies and, after careful deliberation, submitted a demand for a partial recount. This follows the advice of one of our greatest presidents, who said, "Trust, but verify." This past Monday and Tuesday, I've been at the elections office observing County Clerk Sherry Hall and her team as they conducted the recount. Commissioners, County Clerk Sherry Hall runs a tight ship, and she deserves everyone's vote for re-election. This is enforced by the unofficial results of the recount. Steve Bates appears to have gained 1 vote in the recount. Only 1 vote from election night is, in fact, a testimony to the fact that the Clackamas County Elections Office is run efficiently and our votes are safe and sound. With that said, the recount demonstrates that further recount processes would be fruitless. So, Commissioner Bernard, I acknowledge and congratulate your victory, and I ask God's blessing on you as you endeavor to serve our great county for another term. Thank you.
Thank you.
Graciously done, Mr. Bates.
Thank you.
All right, thank you both for coming today, and we'll get into the matter at hand, which is a whole bunch of budget considerations. So there are 14 public hearings, and we will start those with the following. Mr. Krupp.
Yes, so the first set of public hearings, the first 2, involve the Board of County Commissioners sitting as the Board of County Commissioners. And the first item for which we have a public hearing and proposed action is the adoption of a resolution that would adopt the Clackamas County budget for the fiscal year 2014-2015, making appropriations and imposing and categorizing taxes for the period of July 1st, 2014 through June 30th, 2015. And Diane Padilla, our budget manager, is here to answer any questions, give you any information that you may need here as you conduct your public hearing. So,
Let me just point out something very quickly, is that Germany scored at the 54-minute mark, and they are leading the U.S. in the World Cup soccer 1-0. That's about 10 minutes ago. Thank you, Diane.
Okay with that. I'm Diane Padilla, the budget manager, and I'm, as Mr. Krupp said, here to request adoption of the Clackamas County budget for fiscal year 2014-2015. This is the final step in a multi-step process. This budget has been studied and approved by the Budget Committee, which is comprised of the commissioners and citizen volunteers. They held public meetings on May 27th, 28th, 29th, and June 3rd. And during those sessions, heard presentations from department heads, received public testimony, deliberated, amended, and then approved a budget. This total county budget is 2.3% lower than the current year 13-14 budget, and this is primarily due to reductions in the healthcare clinic budgets. The budget was published in the Clackamas Review, Oregon City News on June 18th, and includes the changes made by the Budget Committee. The budget before you today also includes 2 additional adjustments that have been requested for issues that were not resolved at the time of the Budget Committee meetings. The first is a request from Facilities Management to add limited-term staff to meet the demand created by the projects that were approved for this next year, particularly the Sheriff's Evidence Facility processing facility. These positions were discussed during the Budget Committee meeting, but they were not included in the budget. And again, they're limited-term positions for the construction only. There's also a request in the Capital Projects Reserve Fund to add the cost of the required improvements for the parking lot on Main Street in Oregon City. These, again, were being finalized during the meetings. The final changes increase the budget by another $346,204 and are detailed in Exhibit A of the resolution. The result of all these adjustments then is reflected in Exhibit B, and this is the budget being presented for adoption. I should add, too, that the budget includes the Budget Committee's acceptance of some of the recommendations of the Compensation Board for elected officials. These include increasing the compensation for the treasurer to keep it within 5% of the market adjusted average, and adding a cost of living allowance of 2.7% for elected officials. And this is in keeping with the increase being provided for represented employees. The budget also includes a 2.7% cost of living allowance for non-represented employees, again, in keeping with the contracted employees. To establish a budget for fiscal 14-15, today there are 4 specific actions that need to be taken. We need to adopt the budget in the amount of $605,792,416, make appropriations in the amount of $585,491,464. The difference here being $20,300,952 being held in reserves. This is not being appropriated and will not be spent this next year. We need to categorize all tax revenue as falling under the general government limitation for Measure 5 purposes, and finally impose the county's maximum permanent tax rates of $2.4042 per $1,000 of assessed value in cities that have 24-hour police patrol services, and $2.9766 per $1,000 of assessed value in other areas of the county. And finally, $0.2480 per $1,000 of assessed value in the county for public safety via a local option levy. And with that, I would request adoption of the 2014-15 budget for Clackamas County.
All right, clarifying questions or comments, Commissioners, before we open the public hearing? Martha?
I just wanted to thank Diane and the rest of the staff. I think this was one of the best budget processes I've seen in a long time, and Mr. Krupp exhibited great leadership. And not only do we have the folks that work with us who really supported us through this, we really had a dynamite group of volunteers with fiscal, experience, CPAs, Frank Moudlin and those folks who really were the citizen group that combed through the budget with us. So, like I said, I've been through many of these, as I know all of us have, but this was actually one of the best budget cycles I can remember in a long time, and we actually are seeing the uptick in the economy, which also made it a little easier this go-around. So, thanks, Diane.
All right, we're going to open the public hearing and ask if anyone wishes to speak. All right, we'll close the public hearing and ask for a motion.
I move we approve the action and adopt the 2014-2015 budget for Clackamas County as presented in the resolution.
Second.
All right, motion made by Commissioner Bernard, seconded by Commissioner Schrader. And so we're going to have a discussion and start with Commissioner, I didn't see which one came on, Bernard.
Oh, I just want to kind of add to what Commissioner Schrader said. I thought it was a great process, but I'll tell you, it's the first one for me where it wasn't bad news. So I thought that it was fun, which budgets normally aren't, and I'm proud of how we invested our money and the $20 million set aside, which I think really started. We always did that, but I think that Commissioner Savas wanted that to be our goal. We adopted that, and I'm glad we moved forward and accomplished that. And that's fantastic. I couldn't ask for better. Great job.
Commissioner Savas.
Well, thank you, Commissioner Bernard. In my last 3 years of going through this process, this being the fourth budget, I've been faced with, as complex as it is, that there's give and take. And I've always struggled with some of the things I really thought that we maybe could have accomplished, that we didn't quite get there. And even this year, there's some things in there that I have to resign myself to some degree that didn't quite maybe get there. But no, the fact that I think I'm maybe turned the corner in the sense of being able to support this budget has been along the lines of that we're starting to make it a move towards aligning some of our discretionary spending with some of the more important things that have come out of all of our surveys and we've heard from our citizens. And specifically, one of the big ones was, appropriating $500,000 towards roads, for example. That's one big one, and I think that's something we've heard from our citizens. And being able to establish the policy, which we got with regards to reserves, as Commissioner Bernard mentioned, and contingencies, and be able to fund those, actually. So we are in a better position, with that. So I'm going to support the budget, and I won't point out, I'm inclined to, but I won't point out some of the things that I have a little bit of heartache with that are contained in here. I'll just pass on that due to the lengthy afternoon, probably, that will be into the afternoon, my guess is, with all these budgets, so I'll leave it at that. I do want to thank the administrator for bringing some of his new ideas into the budget process and did kind of make it an interesting and pleasant budget process. And I think that kind of we all had a sense of security that it would be, when we got towards the end, that we all committed towards a mutual process and there was no surprises. So I want to thank the administrator for some great work. And staff also, did a lot of work, Diane especially, and all the folks in the finance department. And so thank you.
Commissioner Bernard.
And in the tradition of a former commissioner, I did ask Don if we could pull $1 million out, and he offered $1 million each.
Each?
There's an old story to
But
this.
he's very kind, but I refuse to take my $1 million and invest it in where I think it's most important. But I think we did a good job.
It's probably into that farm you bought, but we'll let it go. Well, I will say, again, great staff who have been here before, but specifically Mr. Krupp. He not only brought new ideas, he brought some old ones. And specifically at the end, when we had $900,000 discretionary for ongoing programs, possibly, and $900,000 in one-time shot, we got to do the easel paper on the wall dot program, where we were given a lot of dots, and then we put them up there, and they narrowed things down, then given different colored dots and less of those. The key to that is to hang back and wait if you want that one thing to win and be talked about a little bit further and survive. Then you hang back and put those on there. Plus, that I had my colored markers of the same color, but I chose not to cheat on that. But it was an interesting process, and actually it helped hone it down in a faster manner than hearing 10 different people talk about, I don't know, it was about 30 different items that could have gone on and on. But I think it worked well, and we got some really good buy for those two $900,000 amounts. Commissioner Savas?
I do want to just take this opportunity to, number one, let the people out there know when I mentioned the $500,000 towards road paving of our discretionary monies, that the goal is to maybe, ideally, if things go well, is to ramp that up to the maximum allowed by state law to get that, to make our commitment in the road funding. So I'm hoping that next year we can increase that to again, the maximum at some point in time in the near future.
Commissioner Smith?
Well, I've enjoyed this budget process because of the reasons stated earlier, but I always enjoy budget processes because I tend to think the budget is the way to get the policy that you want. Because, good ideas are wonderful, but if you can't fund them, then the policy goes bye-bye. And it was an opportunity for all 10 members on the Budget Committee to make their pitch for what they think should be funded. And we had a couple of new things come up that we did, and I'm really hopeful that they will pan out, and that's because of our changing technology and our response to communications to the citizens in a more timely manner. And we're going to be creating a new website, have a webmaster, and increase that education and communication to the people who say to us, well, gee, I didn't know that was happening. And so our response to that is try to make our webpage more user-friendly, be able to track meeting notes, agendas, and things like that. So if a person is truly interested in what we're doing, and there are many that are not, they can find that information and hone it down and hopefully get a quick response. So thank you, everybody, for participating. It was 2 weeks where basically we're kind of locked in a room, and after a while you say, geez, I'm not getting anything else done. I'm not getting anything else done. But when you look at it, the budget is probably the most important thing that we do. So thanks to everybody.
Are we ready for the poll?
Yep.
Mary?
Commissioner Bernard.
Aye.
Commissioner Smith.
Aye.
Commissioner Schrader.
Aye.
Commissioner Savas.
Aye.
Chair Ludlow.
Aye, passes 5-0. Mr. Krupp?
You love to play
There's
that.
hesitation, wasn't there?
Yeah, well, thank you all. This next item is related to the action you just took. It's a piece of it. It's a proposed resolution to adopt changed fees for the coming fiscal year, and I'll ask Laurel Buttman to go through this quickly for you, and then we have a public hearing to consider this as well.
Thank you. Laurel Buttman, Deputy County Administrator. Yes, ancillary to the county budget process, since 2002, the board has, in a more transparent way, adopted the actual fees and fines changes every year. And so we're here today to do that adoption. We came before you on March 25th with changes to fees and fines for the coming fiscal year. There was some guidance in terms of some minor changes to be made. We came back on May 13th, and at that point there was a tentative approval by the board for the fees and fines that you see in the attachment here. Once adopted, primarily fees, there are 2 fines that are discontinued. Once adopted, these will become part of Attachment A to our code, the county code, so that folks will know what fees are out there for the year. So with that, unless there are any questions, we respectfully recommend that the board approve and sign the attached resolution adopting changed fees for Clackamas County for fiscal year 2014-15.
Comments or questions, commissioners? All right. I'm going to open the public hearing and ask if anyone wishes to speak on this particular resolution. There being none, I close the public hearing and ask for the wishes of the commission.
I move we approve and adopt the changed fees for Clackamas County fiscal year 2014-2015 as presented in the resolution.
Is there a second? I'll second. So, discussion, commissioners. All right, we ready for the poll? Mary?
Commissioner Smith.
Aye.
Commissioner Schrader.
Aye.
Commissioner Savas,
Aye.
Commissioner Bernard,
Aye.
Chair Ludlow.
Aye, passes 5-0. We will adjourn the Clackamas County Board of Commissioners meeting and convene as the Enhanced Law Enforcement District Board on this next issue, number 3. Mr. Krupp.
Yes, Mr. Chair, we have a public hearing to consider the adoption of a resolution for the adoption of the budget of the Enhanced Law Enforcement District budget for the fiscal year 2014-2015, making appropriations and imposing and categorizing taxes for the period of July 1st, 2014 through June 30th, 2015. And Diane Padilla, our budget manager, is here to provide you any additional information and answer any questions you might have.
Okay, again, requesting adoption of the 2014-15 budget for the Enhanced Law Enforcement District. The voters approved this district in 1995 to provide a higher level of patrol services in the unincorporated areas of the county within the urban growth boundary and the cities of Happy Valley and Johnson City. Subsequently, Happy Valley passed its own local option levy and now contracts with the Sheriff's Office for law enforcement services. This year, the good news is the district will be able to support 34 positions, and that's an increase of 1 deputy position. As was the case in the Clackamas County budget, this is a final step of a multi-step budget-setting process. This budget was approved by the Budget Committee, which held a public hearing, reviewed the budget, provided an opportunity for public comment, deliberated, and approved this budget on June 2nd. This budget was published in the Clackamas Review, Oregon City News on June 18th. Again, there are 4 specific actions to be taken. Adopt the budget, make appropriations in the amount of $6,077,650, categorize all tax revenue as falling under the general government limitation for Measure 5 purposes, and impose the district's maximum permanent tax rate of $0.7198 per $1,000 of assessed value within district boundaries. And with that, I would request adoption of this budget.
Questions or comments? All right. I'll open the public hearing and ask if anyone wishes to speak on this resolution. This, again, is for the Enhanced Law Enforcement District. There being none, I'll close the public hearing and ask for a motion.
Mr. Chair, I move we approve the actions and adopt the 2014-2015 budget for the Clackamas County Enhanced Law Enforcement District as presented in the resolution.
I'll second that.
All right. Motion made by Commissioner Smith, seconded by Commissioner Savas. Commissioner Savas.
Just some comment. I know during the budget process we had, when we were speaking with the sheriff regard to the purpose, enhanced law, and also recognizing some staffing challenges with regards to retirements, being able to fill vacancies. And I've expressed, I think some citizens have expressed, and even as late as even Tuesday, I heard from citizens that there is a concern that the mission of the district is not quite being accomplished, and I even think there's a staffing, as I heard on Tuesday, maybe a staffing issue where those areas aren't really being served or getting the exact, or not exact, but getting the level of service they anticipated by virtue of maybe some absences or retirements. So this is a continual problem that we're going to have to focus on and figure out how, with the contract services that are provided in the city, how those are being served and met, and also how it's being met in the unincorporated area. And I want to make sure there's some equity there. But that's just a commentary about still one of my lingering concerns with regard to, again, the mission and purpose of this amount of tax money that's being directed towards the level of service.
Commissioner Bernard.
And I just wanted to quickly say that I recently attended a graduation, and that process is definitely stepping up, and it was great to see a lot of nice young officers being sworn in. It was really exciting. So, and the sheriff made sure he had a picture of us to prove that it's occurring. His goal is to fill those positions, and he was very excited about the last swearing in. So we'll see.
I think You know, I don't think people really realize how long our employees, a lot of them have been working here. It is a great place to work, and I just signed yesterday 20-year, 30-year. I mean, there was probably 40 or 50 certificates, at least of 10 years there, and it's great to see that. But however, these people are retiring, and that's what happens to the sheriff a lot. He has retirements, and then he has to get an officer's, but it takes so long to put that officer into duty on the road. Now, I think we all still must remember what compression is. That's because of the property tax limitation measures that, let's say that the rate, Diane, what was the rate per thousand that was allowed to be collected here?
For the enhanced district, $0.7198 per thousand of assessed
See,
value.
that's never collected because of those limitations. So when there's too many approvals by too many taxing entities out there, they still must stay within the $5 and $10 limitation, being $5 for schools and $10 for everything else, budget-wise. And so because of that, they nick a little bit off of everybody. So when you think about that rate, it's great to have the rate, but they don't collect based on that rate. I don't think many people do they, Diane?
No.
All right. So we have a motion on the floor. We have a second. Any further discussion on this item? This is number 3. I'll ask the clerk to call the poll.
Commissioner Schrader? Aye. Commissioner Savas?
Aye.
Commissioner Bernard?
Aye.
Commissioner Smith? Aye. Chair Ludlow?
Aye, passes 5-0. We will adjourn the meeting of the Enhanced Law Enforcement District Board, and we will, what do we say? I got to get these all right, and convene as the Clackamas County Extension and 4-H Service District Board on this issue. Mr. Krupp.
Yes, this item is a public hearing to consider adopting a resolution that would adopt the Library Service District of Clackamas County 2014-2015 fiscal year budget.
Not library.
That's,
You said library, didn't you?
oh,
Yeah.
yeah, library service. Oh,
You're
I'm
down
sorry.
one.
I skipped right down
Next
the list
page.
I
here.
finally caught you.
Oh, you went too low.
Moving ahead, I'm thinking
Write
we ought to
that
move
down.
much quicker than that.
You know, Mary is going to beat up on me later, but so far you're in line, buddy.
I'm ready. Okay, so we are, as the County Extension and 4-H Service District, resolution before you and is to adopt the Clackamas County Extension and 4-H Service District budget for 2014-2015, and to make appropriations and imposing and categorizing taxes for the period of July 1st, 2014 through June 30th, 2015. And Diane Padilla, our budget manager, is here to provide information and answer any questions.
All right.
Okay.
And I need to pay closer attention as well.
Yeah, really, man.
There are a number of them today. The Extension and 4-H Service District was approved by voters in 2008 for the purpose of meeting the demand for programs serving families, youth, and agricultural and natural resource operations in the county. Declining federal funding to counties meant a shortfall for local programs, including agricultural extension. Establishing the Extension District allowed services to continue and expand. These services include 4-H programs, technical assistance for farmers, family forest owners, nurseries, Christmas tree growers, and gardeners. The 2014-15 budget presented for adoption totals $5,250,803 and is as approved by the district's budget committee on June 2nd and published in the Clackamas Review, Oregon City News on June 18th. The actions to be taken are to adopt the budget in the amount of $5,250,803, make appropriations in the amount of $1,950,803, the difference being $3,300,000 held in reserves, which is not appropriated and will not be spent this year. Categorize all tax revenue as falling under the general government limitation for Measure 5 purposes, and impose the district's maximum permanent tax rate of 5 cents per $1,000 of assessed value within district boundaries. Again, we request adoption of the 2014-15 budget for the Clackamas County Extension and 4-H Service District.
Clarification or questions, Commissioner Smith?
Well, thank you. The Extension Service, I'm just very pleased. The committee members have been quite fiscally responsible. Over the last several years since this bond has gone out. They have been saving their money and have several $1 million set aside to build a new building. And I think their hopes is that they can do it with cash, not burdening any more interest costs to go forward. They have been in the same building. It's very small. They've outgrown their boundaries a lot. They do much for our people in the county with the Master Gardener program, all kinds of food services, processing, growing, health concerns. And so I'm really happy to say that this is a very well-run program. The 4-H Service District mainly caters to our youth to teach them about the importance of agriculture, animal husbandry, forestry, and anything else that's going on in Clackamas County, even within the cities of the city districts. So thank you very much for this, and I'm happy to vote for this budget.
All right, we'll open the public hearing on this matter. Number 4, again, ask if anyone wishes to speak. There being none, we'll close the public hearing and ask for the motion.
I move we approve the actions and adopt the 2014-2015 budget for the Clackamas County Extension and 4-H Service District as presented in the resolution.
I'll second that.
All right, motion made by Commissioner Schrader, seconded by Commissioner Savas. Any further discussion or clarification?
I just want to echo what Commissioner Smith said. This is a wonderful program, and I remember being on board as a commissioner when they passed this initiative, and it overwhelmingly passed, which continues to show that our rural roots are deep in this county, and we have a strong agricultural economic sector and base.
Thank you. I think we all enjoy the 4-H and see those, especially the young people. We had one a couple weeks ago come testify. It was a leader, you could tell. Obviously, done a lot of public speaking. It's good to see those kind of people come up through the ranks, because as we concentrate more on local farming, with Martha is a big advocate of, I see that that's going to become more and more important to this very agricultural county. All right, are we ready for the poll? Mary?
Commissioner Savas.
Aye.
Commissioner Bernard.
Aye.
Commissioner Smith.
Aye.
Commissioner Schrader.
Aye.
Chair Ludlow.
Aye, passes 5-0. The board will now adjourn as the Clackamas County Extension of 4-H Service District and convene as the Library Service District Board. Mr. Krupp.
Yes, so now we're on the Library Service District, and this is a public hearing to consider adopting the resolution for the budget for the Library Service District of Clackamas County for 2014-2015 fiscal year. I'm going to invite Mr. Gary Barth to give you a brief report and answer any questions that you might have.
Good morning, Commissioners. Gary Barth, Director of Business and Community Services for the county. Before you is a resolution and staff report for the adoption of the Clackamas County Library District budget for fiscal year 2014-15. This Library District Budget Committee met on June 2nd, 2014 to hear the budget message, hear public comment, and deliberate on the proposed budget. The Budget Committee approved the budget in the amount of $16,838,977 with a tax rate of $0.3974 per thousand of assessed value. As per Oregon budget law, a notice of this meeting and a financial summary of the approved budget was published in the Clackamas Review on June 18th of 2014. And with that, I would like to respectfully recommend adoption of the Library District budget for fiscal year 2014-15.
Clarifications or questions, Commissioners? All right. We'll open the public hearing and call forward Mr. Les Poole.
Good morning, Les Poole, Gladstone. 17 million is a lot of money, and we got to thank the taxpayers for approving the district in the past. I certainly support the item, but just there's a concern out there about where we're going with the libraries, and there's a lot of commotion with libraries in general, and I realize this is a budget hearing, but the reliance of this district can be affected by the property values and the economy out there. So I'm certainly here to support this, But like so many folks, I've got concerns about where are we going to be in a couple of years. So maybe next year's budget's going to be even more challenging for Mr. Barth. But I do support this, and thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Poole. Any other further comments from the public? Close the public hearing and ask for the wishes of the commission.
I move we approve the action and adopt the 2014-2015 budget for the Library Service District of Clackamas County as presented in the resolution.
Second.
All right, motion made by Commissioner Bernard, seconded by Commissioner Schrader. Discussion, Mr. Savas.
Well, I just want to speak a little bit about, and I guess Mr. Barth, Director Barth, finds himself with two different budgets here today, which have, I think, some equity issues, not any fault of his whatsoever. But I just briefly want to say that this was a measure that the voters approved. I think there was some good things in it, and I think there was things that maybe from an equity standpoint or from a future urbanization standpoint or incorporation standpoint that maybe could have been a little bit thought out a little bit better. But there is an equity issue here that hopefully we can get resolved in the future. But for the most part, I think we accomplished the mission that was set out primarily, but there's still some things that need to be worked out. But I'm going to approve this budget, but it's just one that it's just been a lingering problem that hopefully, again, in the future, we can resolve.
Commissioner Bernard?
I just want to add, being on the other side of this, Mayor of Milwaukee, our city administrator said, you're right. It's going to be tough in the future. Costs go up. It's true with every single budget we're passing here today. There will be more challenges in the future and less money to pay it. But it was a good plan. And I know just about everybody is still struggling to figure out how to, what building to build, where to build it, how to staff it, and all those things. And the cities are contributing. But it was a good idea, and I think it will be a success. Just have to probably be leaner and leaner and leaner until someday the voters decide, well, let's give them more money. So, thanks. I'm excited.
Thank you. I think, remembering how the library district was formed, I guess one of the confusions, but it wasn't purposeful, that when Clackamas County put out their information, they said that the Oak Lodge Library would close. And, it just was. Oak Lodge and the folks in Oak Lodge, Jennings Lodge, have been very involved with Gladstone in a very successful 26-person committee that came together, and Gladstone just recently put in writing that they fully intend to go out for an election in November. So getting the idea and the concept of this whole district together has a lot to do with that one, finalizing that one. Oregon City's building a new library. And we're still trying to get Happy Valley to take the library that we built for them. So, all together, it should come together much better here in the next year, we hope, so that we can disperse the monies we've been holding for some time, waiting for the cities to finish their work. But this is actually the budget, which has little to do with all that, but is getting back to why it was formed, the district, and certainly how they operate. And our help, any help we can give to different cities as they achieve their goals. So any further discussion on this one? Mary?
Commissioner Bernard.
Aye.
Commissioner Smith.
Aye.
Commissioner Schrader.
Aye.
Commissioner Savas.
Aye.
Chair Ludlow.
Aye. Number 5 passes 5-0. Announce the board will adjourn as the Library Service District Board and convene as the North Clackamas Parks and Recreation District Board on this next issue.
Yes, Mr. Chair, you have a public hearing to consider the adoption of a resolution to adopt the budget for the North Clackamas Parks and Recreation District. This is for fiscal year 2014-2015, making appropriations and imposing and categorizing taxes for the period of July 1st, 2014 through June 30th, 2015. And Mr. Barth will present a brief report and answer any questions you may have.
Good morning, Commissioners. Gary Barth, Director of Business and Community Services, and before you is the Director of the North Clackamas Park and Recreation District. Before you is a board order and a staff report for the adoption of the NCPRD budget for fiscal year 2014-15. This Budget Committee met on June 2nd, 2014, to hear the budget message, hear public comments, and deliberate on the proposed budget. The Budget Committee approved a budget in the amount of $34,834,217, which includes interfund transfers in and out, I'll mention, with a tax rate of .5382 per thousand of assessed value. As per Oregon budget law, a notice of this meeting and financial summary of the approved budget were published in the Clackamas Review on June 18th, 2014. With that, I would like to respectfully recommend adoption of the NCPRD budget for fiscal year 2014-15.
All right. Any clarifying? Commissioner Smith.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I think the adoption of this budget is one of the best successes we've seen at this county or any other governing body, in that we were able to pay off our debt on the golf course on Stone Creek.
County Parks, that was County Parks.
County Parks, I'm sorry, I am getting ahead of myself on that. I'm so excited about that. But as far as the equity issue has come up before with this, I think the board is moving forward to try to resolve a lot of those equity issues. We're trying to get up to speed, clarify some management responsibilities. And really, I think in all things, like Jim said, it's up to the people what they want to support as far as taxes are concerned, although this budget does not approve new taxes. And there's never enough money. And so I think it's mindful we need to, as governance, learn to live in what the taxpayers are willing to give us, learn to live within our means, and I think this budget does that at this point.
Just a quick comment. The NCPRD, if you watch what the Commission's been doing, Ms. Barth has led a very long process, several-year process, to bring forward a master plan. It is the wishes of this board that currently, that we have a November election to decide on a new self-governed elected board situation in this NCPRD area. The question in hand, although it doesn't have anything to do with this particular budget, is how much we ask for. Currently, it's at 89 cents. The emphasis here, as Commissioner Smith has said before, that is a raise over the current 54 cents. So net, we're talking about 35 cents as an increase. And as part of that, again, keep a watch on the Commission, because Mr. Barth does have, or will have soon, the schedule at which improvements, capital improvements, will be done based on that kind of income in the future. So we're handing over, we hope, the ability for people to have their own elected officials determined, and certainly we want to give them a head start in some capital improvements, and certainly the maintenance that is most necessary currently to maintain. Commissioner Savas.
Well, I was going to hold my comments towards after the hearing piece, but being that it seems that there's comments now related to this, my comments are probably more suited to be spoken now. So there are a number of I think challenges in the here and now. The here and now is we are the elected board of officials for the Parks District. And I guess it is incumbent on the here and now for us to make sure that somehow, as when we're talking about the future of the district, that we somehow rectify, somewhere once and for all, the equity issues. And I spoke a little bit about that at the library district piece we just had, but that we kind of set them on a course or a path to solve those things and to be successful, and not call out necessarily any one particular area, but make sure that in the future that all areas are served. And there are budgetary implications. So getting back to the budget piece of this, I am served as a liaison and been to a number of the meetings of the advisory board. And I think that when it comes to monetary issues and questions that come up, that they ought to be fulfilled. The questions ought to be answered, and I know that the district has limits as far as staffing, and they've been trying to spend a lot of time trying to get this district measure on the ballot, and so maybe that's why some of the questions from the advisory board and myself have not been fully satisfied or answered. So I'm struggling, this is probably of all the budgets we're facing here today, and I don't know really where I'm going to be. I may or may not support this in a few moments, but I do have some problems with, you know, some of the previous decisions that were made and maybe previous transactions that were made that I don't think have been satisfactorily recorded. So that's why I have a little bit of heartburn with this one. But I'm taking this opportunity to express that now, and I don't think we're going to find any solution to that here today, but I think it's worth expressing.
Commissioner Schrader?
Yeah, I just want to thank Commissioner Savas for talking to this issue. I want to make sure that all the kids in the county get the parks they need, because North Clackamas Park and Rec District is really is the recreation district, and it's ball fields, and it's you know, soccer fields, and it's all those kinds of good things. And you know, I've always said a park is a park is a park for kids, and we've got to think about this whole district holistically. And I feel very positive that people will certainly try, that the folks we work with will move forward with equitable park possibilities for everybody. But what I'd like to ask, Mr. Barth, you've had a number of successes since the inception of the park, with new parks being approved and built, and it's been, when you showed me a map, it is all over the county. I mean, we still have, I'll be honest, I still think we have more work to be done in some of the areas that are underserved, but could you just, for a positive piece, tell us where those parks are and how they're distributed throughout the county?
Just a clarification, Commissioner, you said all over the county. This is the NCPRD we're talking
Excuse
about.
me, you're right. This is within the border of the North Clackamas Park and Rec District. Thank you for that. Yeah, that's a new. Obviously, I want parks all over the county, but this is one district. So sorry. Thank you, Chair, for.
Yeah, the North Clackamas Park Recreation District is 36 square miles, northern part of the county, covers the cities of Milwaukee, Happy Valley, the unincorporated area in between, south to the Clackamas River, excluding Johnson City and the city of Gladstone. And when we formed the district in 1990, we formed it kind of around the neighborhood park system of the city of Milwaukee. It had 10 neighborhood parks at the time, as well as 2 county facilities, Risley Park and River Villa Park, and the city-owned North Clackamas Park. Since then, you know, we've added, we now have 38 parks from those 10 district-wide. We have a number of miles of hiking trails and natural areas. We went back and kind of looked at the original formation documents, and we have fulfilled every commitment and obligation of that original. With the one exception of soccer fields, we're still a little short on soccer field inventory from what that expectation was, and working diligently to try to close that gap. But yes, and to Commissioner Savas's point, we absolutely still have underserved areas of the district that need to be filled. We're aware of those areas that need to be filled, and we have projects identified, and with funding, hopefully we'll continue to kind of close the equity gap that does exist across the district. And it's really not uncommon to NCPRD as well. City of Portland struggles with the same thing with a number of their various areas of their community as well. So equity and equality are two kind of different terms, but things that we kind of look towards throughout the management with the guidance of the board. I would point folks to the website. The presentation that Commissioner Schrader is referring to is available on the website for the public to see. It's this kind of the story of the district, and kind of shows how that build-out occurred over the last 24 years in 5-year increments. And there's also a virtual open house that we're still taking public comment on, things that folks would like to see with the future of the district. And it's a very robust, interactive website there. And you can weigh in on any number of special interest areas, sports, recreation, natural areas, et cetera. So encourage folks to go to the website and provide us their input.
Commissioner Bernard?
I mean, that's a really good example. 2 commissioners up here were confused on that. Not confused, but that pattern, I'm just saying that pattern consists throughout the county. And somehow we got to address that. Because, you know, people are really confused. And so I think we need to, you know, if you go up to the mountains and sometimes people respond to North Clackamas Parks District and wonder why they're not getting some of that money. Well, it's not part of the Parks District. So it is very confusing.
Yeah, we serve 115,000 residents of roughly 381,000 in the county, 36 square miles, so.
Yeah.
Commissioner Schrader?
Yeah, I want to make a comment about some of the larger ball fields that were built too, because at the time, I just wanted to say I recall this when I was on the commission, that we were looking at pocket parks and then the larger regional, larger kind of recreational centers kinds of things. And I do recall it was the direction of the board to go big because they felt it was more cost effective. So I just want to bring some of that institutional memory to the fore here. That was one of the reasons they built the larger ball fields, and we're doing that because we were, but you know, that was then, this is now. And if we have underserved areas that want to have, you know, 5-acre parks that are a little smaller, you know, I want to respond to citizens in the area and do what we can to make that happen. But in all fairness, I want to make sure that people understand that we had given a directive for the larger, more bang for the, you know, the thought then was with a larger facility, you get more service, it's more regional, more kids get there within the district, and that was the direction of the board for better or for worse.
I appreciate you making that point. In
Yeah.
2004, the recommendation was an increase in the tax rate and a general obligation bond to do with, and those were not approved, and the commission did give direction at that time that without that additional funding, focus what resources you do have on those larger facilities, and that's how
So
staff has been
I
operating.
just want to make that clear that, you know, we have to take responsibility for decisions we made in the past, and that's what I do recall. But go forth and do good work and get parks for kids. And yes, there is a difference between county parks and this district.
Thank you.
So
Commissioner
I won't forget
Savas.
again.
Yeah, so I'm glad that clarification was made, because I think that people who are watching this might say, well, parks, you know, and if, you know, that area basically includes the city of Milwaukee and the city of Happy Valley, north of Gladstone, and the 80,000 of the 115,000 citizens are the unincorporated area that include Jennings Lodge, Oatfield, Oak Grove, and North Clackamas, and the Clackamas CPO areas. Yeah, I think it's important to clarify when we use the word underserved, and as the liaison to the Parks District, I've been to a lot of groundbreakings and a lot of ribbon cuttings, and the areas that I'm speaking of, and probably the meetings that I've attended just in the last 5 days, you know, 3 of which are in the areas that are severely identified in the current master plan as severely underserved, and I think that is the burning question or the burning issue, and one that people asked me even as last night, where are the rest of the county commissioners? How come they're not here tonight? And that was just last evening, and I know that we weren't expected to be there, and I expressed that, but I think that they are very, just becoming very passionate because of the dialogue that's occurring right now. And so I said, well, they weren't expected. I live in the area, and it's just something that I've been hearing and has been bombarded with, and I think rightfully so, that they really feel as though they are not heard, and that the cities are heard more than they are, and that's something that is just being amplified at this time.
Go ahead.
Yeah, just text us next time, Paul. I could have come. I didn't have it on my schedule, but if you text or let us know, I'd be glad to do that. And yeah, I understand the unincorporated areas. This has been consistent across the county, and that's where it comes into the equity and fairness issue. That whole notion that the cities, you know, take whatever, that's been around for a long, long time, and it just gets people hot under the collar. So we'll try and fix it.
All right. Wait a minute. Let me just get this right. There were some lights flashing in here in front of me.
I'm confusing them, sorry. Confusing me. Flashing lights.
Ladies and gentlemen, so far we've heard that there are equity issues in the library, equity issues in enhanced law enforcement, and equity and fairness issues in the park system. There will never be a time when there isn't a group of people who remonstrate against that they're not being dealt fairly with. But in the end, I will tell you that there isn't, as far as the comment that the DAB, that's the District Advisory Board, the NCPRD, and commissioners do not get answers, there isn't anybody who likes to give more answers than Gary Barth. I will tell you. The guy loves to explain things. And remember, this process of public involvement, at least for the master plan, which has something to do with what we're talking about today, that process has gone on for 2 years. He's been out there. He's heard everything everybody had to say, and I've never heard a complaint from the DAB that they haven't had enough information or their questions have not been answered. That's Mr. Barth's job, and I think he does an outstanding job at that. Equity and fairness. We've talked about some of the problems of our heavily densified, unincorporated areas, and we've certainly talked. I've encouraged boring. It's not heavy, but if they want autonomy and want their own choices, they should become a city. I grew up in Oak Grove, and it was pretty populated even back then, during the 50s and 60s. But we continue to talk about unincorporated areas wanting to receive city services from this county, and it's darned expensive. The cities have a right to say, hey, we have concerns about equity, and Happy Valley has made that abundantly clear. Milwaukee is behind our current effort. But the bottom line is we can't make everybody happy. The equity and fairness issue has been addressed by Mr. Barth, will continue to be in the future as far as capital improvement projects in all of the different areas, specifically the 2 cities in the unincorporated areas. But I'm voting for this budget because it's sustainable with the taxes currently at hand. Remember, we're talking about the 54 cents per thousand that's already fixed in the budget. We're just telling you how we're going to spend the money we're able to get based on that 54 cents. Any further discussion or clarification? All right. I think we're going to open the public hearing and ask if anyone wishes to speak. NCPRD, this is item number 6.
You have one card.
Oh, I do. Excuse me. Mr. Les Poole. Yeah, I'm glad you already started coming up.
Thanks again. Les Poole, Gladstone. This is the other agenda item or budget I was going to comment on today. I lived in Oak Grove for 20 years, and we don't need to get too far in the weeds, but they pay extra for enhanced law enforcement. They pay for parks. They have a great sanitary district run by Mr. Reed. They have a water district. I don't know where equity really lies in this county, because Chair Ludlow's correct. Everyone's up in arms about budgets, and the citizens are up in arms about spending. And my message about this is that we currently have 54 cents per thousand. I would hope that there would be a really small fund in this budget towards land banking, towards buying future land, no matter what happens. And down the road, if indeed there's an approval by the voters, which I guess is what's required, to increase that 54 cents, that would be great. But without it, you've got what you've got. It is what it is. But I just feel that somewhere in the Parks District budget, there needs to be a focus on not so much buying land that you can't afford right now, but where is our rainy day fund for that? And we're having more and more density, and it doesn't matter whether Oak Grove's incorporated or not. There's more and more density, more and more pressure, more and more backyards going away. So I understand you can't wave a magic wand, but this Parks District budget and how the Parks District is run and the confusion between the North Clackamas District and the Clackamas Parks District, something I told myself to make sure that I didn't make a mistake about when I was sitting there. And then even the commissioners, as involved as they are, you get confused. But the bottom line is I'm here to deliver a message that regardless of what happens today with the Parks District budget, in a way it's almost a moot point. I'm not dismissing the $34 million and the decision you're making, but until we see a final master plan and until we see what's really doable on a master plan and until we see a decision by the voters about governance and find a way to somehow get more money for parks. I personally think in general the government's done a lousy job of expressing the need to fund parks. We keep hearing the voters won't approve money for parks, and I understand that's a reality, and you can't, spend millions on PR, but it seems that parks has been left out while schools and libraries and other government services have been kept in the mix and in the conversation. So hopefully I'm not rambling too much, and again, I'm not really here to dispute the budget as much as make some general comments and encourage you to keep your pencil sharp. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else wish to speak on this matter? All right, we're going to close the public hearing and ask for a motion. Oh, yeah.
I move we approve the actions and adopt the 2014-2015 budget for the North Clackamas Parks and Recreation District as presented in the resolution.
I'll second that.
All right, motion made by Commissioner Smith, seconded by Commissioner Schrader. Commissioner Bernard.
So first, I think we have a master plan we've been working on for 2 years. I don't know why we haven't moved forward on it. I'm anxious to do that. The capital plan that we'll be talking about soon, I look forward to seeing that, which I'm sure will address a lot of those inequities. But it's interesting, Les mentioned people are up in arms about budgets and spending. Les has been the only person testifying. I mean, this is consistent in the nearly 6 years I've been here, is 1 or 2 people show up. That certainly is not up in arms about budgets and spending.
Oh, Alice.
So, I mean, I think we're doing a really good job, and we have, I'd say Clackamas County during this whole downturn in the economy has done better than almost every county across the state. And I think we should be proud of that. And obviously the folks aren't up in arms as suggested, otherwise they'd be here. This is the second hearing we've had on all these budgets, and I may have been at the last one, but it's like three people. So I think we're doing a good job.
Commissioner Savas?
Well, Commissioner Bernard, I agree. I mean, it's probably one of my qualms is that when it comes to the budget, there's very few people here. And I was, when you were speaking, and Les was speaking, I was recalling the chair last week, and this is not a criticism by any means, but saying that, hey, next week we're going to have a lot of budgets. You may not want to come. And I was hoping when he said that, I was, oh gosh, we actually encourage people to come, right? Because one of our goals is to get people to come, because it was going to be a long meeting, and we don't want people sitting through a long meeting wanting to say something and maybe not have that opportunity because it went on so long. Something else that was said, and I think they're words that kind of almost speak volumes, and that was, people in the unincorporated want city services, and it seems they somehow deserve it. And that's really why these districts were created. And this is about in this topic, we're talking about the Parks District. When the district was formed, it was the unincorporated area that was formed around for primarily, at least from a population standpoint. Happy Valley was not part of that. So, when they wanted a library, an enhanced library district before this one here, or enhanced library services, the unincorporated area stepped up and they paid for that. When they had a fire district, they stepped up. So, yeah, they have and want services that are city-like, but they've also stepped up and said, we'll pay for them. So I don't think that should be thrown back in their face to say, you got a district, you're paying for it, and somehow that's a city service. They're paying for it. And this is a monetary issue. And, this is the budget, and this is probably the time to talk about that. Recognize and at least acknowledge, thank you. Thank you to all the people that have stepped up to the plate and paid for the 4-H district and paid for the library district, and gosh darn it, paid for the North Clackamas Parks District. And those voices and that continual message being heard should be addressed. If you want satisfaction, that needs to be addressed. And, you know, being that I'm the one who has been active and elected, that's on the county, been in the unincorporated area, that's heard that for years, saying, those darn unincorporated people, they're not paying for their services. And this is an example where they have, and they have stepped up. So someone needs to say thank you for stepping up, but, you know, geez, give us a break.
Well, here's the break. It was certainly not meant to throw back in anybody's face the suggestion that Oak Grove should probably be a city if they want city services. Now, you talk about what's lacking in Oak Grove. How about sidewalks, bike paths, improved roadways? There are no shared revenues that the cities get in order to do those things. So we can certainly talk about the library, we can talk about parks, we talk about enhanced law enforcement. But the city does not have the income that cities enjoy, the county does not have the income that cities enjoy in order to make that area feel like a city. I resent and certainly object to thrown back in anybody's face. And when I mentioned that it would be a 3 to 3.5 hour meeting, last meeting, it was just a warning that it may be long, that's all. Certainly not a discouraging comment to get people not to come here. I think anybody who has testified before us has enjoyed a great deal of patience on the part of this commission and the outrageousness of actually answering their questions. So I appreciate Mr. Savis's comments, but I think I'm happy to see what few people do show up, although a lot of times I see a lot more staff here than the public. Mr. Bernard?
Well, I just want to add, you know, for example, Enhanced Law Enforcement District, City of Milwaukee pays for their police department, and the enhanced part helps pay for jails, and they pay a lesser rate. It's also true with libraries. City of Milwaukee gets library money, but they also put part of their city budget into the libraries. It's true with Happy Valley. It'll probably be true with Gladstone. It'll be true everywhere. So there is enhanced law enforcement means it's enhanced above what the current tax rate is. So all those things actually are those things that the county provides that are at a certain service level. People want more, they have to pay more. Milwaukee and the Parks District, for example, has their own parks and maintains some of their own parks. So all that stuff is just an addition above what normally would have been included within a city. So I think that the folks who have voted to support these programs, these districts, do want a higher level of service closer to that of a city. And I would say that the Parks District was actually formed around the city of Milwaukee at the time, having been there at the time, and a goal to enhance opportunities for district-wide improvements such as the Aquatic Center, which I'd never built.
Commissioner Savis?
Well, I do agree with Commissioner Ludlow with regards to that the area should be incorporated. I've been a longtime advocate that that area should incorporate, but after 2 attempts and surveys, you know, we've realized that 60% or more of the area people out there don't want to be incorporated. So, you know, it is what it is, and I think I share that viewpoint, and I think that there are shared revenues that the area could receive, and also just the political advantage of being a city. That area would, I think, probably be in a better position today.
Thank you. Are we ready for the poll?
Yep.
Mary?
Commissioner Smith?
Aye.
Commissioner Schrader? Aye. Commissioner Savis?
No.
Commissioner Bernard?
Aye.
Chair Ludlow?
Aye, passes 4-1. And now, I will announce that we will adjourn as the North Clackamas Parks and Recreation District Board and convene as the Development Agency Board on this next issue, announcing that America did lose 1-0 to Germany. However, because of another team's finish, they finished second in that bracket and will go on and continue playing World Cup soccer.
So they'll be one of the 16?
Yes, America will advance to play again. Alice. All right.
Is our game over?
Our game's over. Again, we lost 1-0.
We lost.
And I would also announce that this will be the last one we'll take before we take a 15-minute break and come back and tackle this. So, Mr. Krupp.
I think after our loss, a recess is certainly in order.
Yeah, a little mourning.
Gain a little composure. So this is a public hearing to consider a proposed resolution that would adopt and appropriate funds for the 2014-2015 fiscal year budget for the Clackamas County Development Agency. And Mr. Dan Johnson, who manages the development agency, is here to give you a brief report and answer any questions you may have.
Thank you so much. Again, for the record, Dan Johnson, manager of Clackamas County Development Agency. I'm pleased to be here to share with you the fiscal year 2014-2015 budget for the agency. The development agency is the urban renewal authority in Clackamas County. The agency is responsible to implement 4 urban renewal plans in the county: the Clackamas Town Center area, the Clackamas Industrial Area, Government Camp Village, and the North Clackamas Revitalization Area. The budget before you today encompasses appropriations for all 4 of these districts. Majority of the funding found within these budgets is provided through tax increment financing, a dedicated revenue source supporting the plan implementation within these areas. It's important to note that levies within these areas have terminated, essentially 3 of the 4. We only have 1 active levy currently. Those include the Clackamas Industrial Area, which terminated in 2006, Government Camp in 2009, and the Clackamas Town Center in 2013. In the interest of time, I'm not going to revisit the list of projects we previously shared with you, but I am happy to share the fact that we continue to be very capital intensive. The budget before you today has approximately 93% of the allocations associated with capital construction activities, which is greater than our 85% target that we have. Beyond these capital projects, the agency also continues to focus on community outreach and service district coordination. Conversing with the public and building these relationships are key to our success. Also, disposition of agency property. During the course of business, the agency has acquired lands of various purpose, most often for expected development or for transportation right-of-way. It is the agency's policy to market these properties to maximize the return to Clackamas County in terms of public benefit, jobs, and assessed valuation. Included in the budget document is a spreadsheet and graphics including all of our properties. Last but not least, with the termination of levies in 3 of these districts, we continue to focus on an exit strategy. Projects are winding down in a number of these agencies' areas, and the work continues to focus on exiting these areas in a coordinated manner. This includes not only the disposition of agency property, which we just discussed, but also the appropriate transfer of district assets. And those activities are underway currently. In closing, the Development Agency Budget Committee reviewed the budget document on June 2nd and recommends your approval. Notice of this meeting has been published in local newspapers as required by local budget law. With that, I respectfully request the approval of the resolution adopting and appropriating funds for the fiscal year 2014-2015 budget for the Clackamas County Development Agency. Thank you.
Clarification from the presenter. All right, we'll open the public hearing and ask if anyone wishes to speak on this item, which is number 7. All right, we'll close the public hearing and ask for the motion.
I move we approve the actions and adopt the 2014-2015 budget for the Clackamas County Development Agency as presented in an outstanding way in the resolution.
I second.
All right, motion made by Commissioner Bernard, seconded by Commissioner Smith. Discussion? I'd like to say that I'm going to vote for this, and it's urban renewal, and I hate urban renewal and what money it takes from schools, police, fire, and libraries. A little bit of a history lesson on how we got to this particular budget is when we took office, there had been a committee, and also on that committee were 2 commissioners, Bernard and Savas, who talked about how to spend the final remains of the $48 million held in the Clackamas Regional Center Urban Renewal District. The $48 million was to be spent. And I'm not going to use too many I's in here, but I was the one that insisted for the money actually to be voted on and whether it should be sent back to police, fire, schools, libraries, and everybody else that's a taxing entity in that district. From that disagreement, I've got to give it up to the commission, they agreed to divest some of that money back into the hands of the big 3, that being schools, the sheriff's district, and the fire district. We'll talk about the fire district, the police enhanced law enforcement district, And those three are now getting, correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Johnson, but over $9 million of that 48, is that correct?
The total was 4, and you're correct, but there were 4 with the Parks District was in there as well. Parks, schools, fire, and enhanced law.
And the total was?
$9 million.
Yeah, $9 million is going back. Now, remember, that wasn't going to be that way. But for anybody who thinks that their coming forward and disagreeing is wrong, without disagreement, there'll never be change. And that goes for the same for these commissioners. We disagree at times. We get along, and we make a decision, and most of us live with that decision very well. But the fact that somebody came along and said, this is unfair to those districts, this is Sheriff's District losing $6 million and now recovering less than 3, the Fire District losing up to $8 million based on urban renewal. It was an appropriate decision to send a portion of these monies back, $9 million out of the $48 million. The others are planned for. I compliment staff, and specifically Mr. Johnson and Ms. Green, in regards to their expenditures and the very tight budgeting. This is a low overhead operation for urban renewal. I'm very proud to know that, and the excellent work that they've done. Commissioner Savas.
Well, thank you, John. I was recalling back, I can't remember if it was February, March, or April of last year, 2013, when we stood up here and we had a couple options, and we voted 5-0 to do the option that would have given some of that back, some of that $48 million back to the districts. So I'm pleased to hear your comments today. And the subsequent work session we had with the idea of, or the idea again being raised of sending it back would have jeopardized not only what the previous board did. I think just kind of want to give kudos to the previous Board of Commissioners, 2011 and 12, that decided to close the district and terminate the district, and work with those districts and agencies to once and for all how to spend down the dollars and achieve what we mutually wanted to do, the projects we wanted to do. And I think at that time we had several $100,000 million worth of projects, but we knew we weren't going to accomplish all those with just that point, not even knowing it'd be $48 million at approximate, some fund balance to spend those projects down. And we're doing that, and to close and terminate the district. And adjustments were made in the past prior to me being a commissioner to try to give back some of that and put back on the tax rolls more of that assessed value gain so that they would not be further compromised. So we've done that over a period of time, previous commissions. So previous commissions made those adjustments to benefit the districts. The previous commission that I served on made the decision to close the district, the urban renewal district, to benefit those other districts. So we are getting where we want to go, where we want to be, and that is to terminate the district and put everything back on the tax rolls. And I saw this as an opportunity also to build projects, road projects that our citizens have been asking for, that will relieve dollars from the gas tax that would otherwise not go to road maintenance. So there's just a number of complementary things that benefit Clackamas County, both in the district and outside the district, by a result of what we're doing here. So I'm pleased, and I will be supporting this budget as well.
Commissioner Schrader.
Yeah, good job, Dan. It seems to me, we also, didn't we, with urban renewal dollars, build the fire district, a new fire station out there? Do I recall that? Wasn't there one, or there was something I remember that we...
One of the specific projects was to secure some property on the Kazi area.
Yeah, and so we did that, because I recall the new fire station is...
We didn't.
No?
We didn't build it for them, but we secured some of the sites.
We secured the property for them?
On Kazi for the new station there.
Okay. So I just want to clarify, I think we've had a history with urban renewal and working with our public agencies and entities to take that and try and get things done that actually added value. So the dollars we gave back to the public entities, what added value is going to happen, do you think, because of that?
That's amazing.
You can measure value in a number of different ways.
Yeah, but there's going to be some, so go for it, Dan. I trust you, man. Go.
You're talking to an urban renewal guy that played basketball with a bunch of firemen this morning, and my back is killing me. So I'm going to stretch this a little bit. Obviously, there's benefit with the service
Which part
provided.
are you stretching? I'm just... no, I meant the verbiage. Go ahead.
You know, obviously, the benefit is provided through a number of different ways. It's provided by the services that are rendered by these different agencies, and the ability to provide them and work with them cooperatively is an opportunity. I'm pleased to announce the fact that I think probably this point of time is the best relationship we have ever had with any of these districts as an urban renewal authority. We have had an emphasis on speaking with them and updating them monthly about different projects that we have and where are there opportunities that we can partner together. And I think that's been very valuable for all of our relationships. You know, obviously, in regards to the assessed value, these are all tax abatements. So, you know, our objectives on value are measured differently, while the service delivery, there's a benefit.
Yeah. So we are helping them with service delivery, or, you know, again, when we looked at their projects. And I just want to clarify, there is no statutory requirement that we worked with districts, is there, in terms of informing them about urban renewal and?
I think it's desired in any work that we do, but obviously the only real requirement that we have for coordinating with those districts is dictated by when plans are amended or adopted. There are specific points in time.
And I guess my point is that we're doing the right thing by communicating with them. It's not something that was mandated, but we have gone out of our way, I think, as an urban renewal district to communicate with those public entities. I recall once a comment made, but there's no requirement that we have to do that. And I remember setting the policy as a commissioner saying, it doesn't matter if we're required to do it. We need to do it, and we must do it because we're all partners in delivering these services. Now, in terms of added value, with the Urban Renewal District, from your perspective then, from the economic development perspective, using that tool, how much added value has been added to the tax base? Is that the right question to ask? I mean, what's been our return on investment in terms of economically being prosperous because of urban renewal?
If you look at the history of the districts that we have in totality, throughout the life of those districts, they have fostered, is the word that I used, almost $1.2 billion in new assessed value.
And that helps our tax rolls.
Which goes into the tax base, correct. Yep.
And that's the point of urban renewal. I've always thought where the disconnect is, and why I applaud the previous commission, it does need to be a beginning, a middle, and an end. And I think that that sometimes you don't want them to go on forever, because the whole point is to get that added value to feed it back into the tax base. And as I said, I think we've done a really good job working with our special districts to make sure that we're not taking from them. We're really trying to add value with them for public services, as well as enrich our tax base, because that helps them in the future as well. So that's always been my perspective on it, and thanks. You do a great job.
Thank you so much.
Commissioner Savas.
Just one little quick thing to maybe kind of answer Commissioner Schrader's question, and I kind of did my analysis in working with staff, is that as you look at the county growth, that period of time from inception of the district to now, that the town center, the urban renewal district, grew at about a 5 times faster rate in assessed value than the rest of the county grew without urban renewal. So that's probably the number that stuck out to me as being probably the most significant.
I was elected with the idea, and my supporters were of the idea, that there's been great misuse of urban renewal funds in the Clackamas Regional Center. Specifically, $23 million for the Green Line, which swore that it was going to transform, veritably metamorphosize that entire area down to 82nd Avenue with new commercial redevelopment. Ain't none of that come true, folks. And for our previous commission to give the Illinois Teachers Association, who owns Clackamas Town Center, $23 million for remodel, because they said, gosh, we need a remodel, we may have to close, is unfortunate, to say the least. A total remodel of Washington Square was going on at the same time. No public dollars went into that. Bridgeport, a huge success, where it's been growing leaps and bounds. There's no urban renewal in that. The man who built Bridgeport put $8 million in off-site improvements. So I appreciate that Commissioner Schrader specifically mentioned this would go towards public needs, and specifically now it is. It's roads and some money given back to these other taxing entities. But folks, this has been misused. I come from Wilsonville. That's also a poster child for the misuse of urban renewal funds. So the best thing to do is, as Commissioner Schrader has said, and we've certainly talked about this a great deal, is to finally close this. Unfortunately, currently, with all these projects that have been enumerated, we cannot close it until we don't have any more money. And we will be working on this next year because there's some ideas about how we can transfer the funds and actually close this district once and for all. It's one thing not to collect, it's another thing to just close it, finally, once and for all. There has been hundreds of millions of dollars siphoned from these areas, from the schools, police, fire and library, and other taxing entities, and used for other purposes. Some of those purposes have been frivolous and also a failure, but there's also some good things that come about specifically in this budget. Are we ready for the poll?
Yes.
Mary?
Commissioner Schrader.
Aye.
Commissioner Savas.
Aye.
Commissioner Bernard.
Aye.
Commissioner Smith.
Aye.
Chair Ludlow.
Aye. Passes 5-0. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I have 11:46 on the clock. Let's say that we're back here at 10 after. Is that too long, or you want to go 5 minutes after? Got 15 minutes? All right, we're going to be back here. We're going to recess. Well, let's see. Wait a minute. First of all, I got to announce the board will adjourn as a development agency board, and we'll convene something as we come back. So I'm going to make it 12:10 when we come back. Okay? So this meeting is recessed. All right, welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to Clackamas County Board of Commissioners. We are not currently meeting as same, and now I'm going to convene as Service District Number 5 Board on the next two issues. Mr. Krupp.
Yes, Mr. Chair, this is a public hearing to consider a resolution adopting and appropriating funds for the 2015 fiscal year budget for the Clackamas County Service District Number 5 that relates to street lighting. And I'm going to ask our program manager, Wendy Coriel, to shed a little light on the subject.
Good morning, Commissioners. I'm Wendy Coriel, representing Clackamas County Service District Number 5. Today, I'm before you requesting the board adopt the fiscal year 2014-15 budget for Clackamas County Service District Number 5. And in the second matter, I will be presenting a board order to set new rates for the lighting district for the 2014-2015 year. The first board order before you today is for adopting the budget for Service District Number 5 and appropriating funds in the amount of $3,656,590. The budget before you today for adoption is the budget reviewed and approved by the Budget Committee during the Budget Committee hearing on June 2nd, 2014, and the notice for today's hearing was duly advertised on June 18th, 2014 in the Clackamas Review. The mission of the district is to provide street lighting for the cities of Happy Valley and Damascus and in the unincorporated areas of Clackamas County. District contracts with PGE for the design, installation, maintenance, and operation for streetlights. The costs for those streetlights are passed on to those served by the district through assessments that go out in the November property tax statements. Next, I'd like to go over a few of the budget highlights. The district received additional revenues of $865,089 for an energy trust credit for the sale of the Option B and for the sale of the Option B poles, which are district-owned poles. The revenue for this is under the construction line 481200. On February 15, 2013, PG filed for a request to have a rate revision, and they filed that with the Oregon Public Utility Commission, and this increase was approved on December 9, 2013, which took effect on January 1st, 2014. This increase is passed on to the district, and this resulted in an approximately 15% increase in electricity and maintenance costs for the district. Last year, the district instituted a 6.93 rate decrease in 9 of the 10 rate categories to meet the projected expense and maintain the necessary ending fund balance. And this year, the district is proposing a rate increase in all 10 rate categories. On average, this results in a rate increase of 6%. This increase will adjust rates so they are comparable to the 2010 and 2011 budget. Each year, the district reviews each rate structure. The 5-year forecast shows that a 6% increase this year will provide the district an adequate ending fund balance. And with that, that ends my presentation. And on behalf of Service District Number 5, I respectfully request approval of the board order adopting the budget and appropriating funds in the amount of $3,656,590 for Clackamas County Service District Number 5.
All right, any questions, clarification from the presenter? All right, I'm going to open the public hearing and ask if anyone wishes to speak on this matter. There being none, I will close the public hearing and ask for the motion.
I move we approve the action and adopt the 2014-2015 budget for the Clackamas. Am I down too far? No, that's right.
Number 8.
For the Clackamas County Service District Number 1 as presented.
No, it'd
in
be number
resolution.
5, Jim. I think.
Yeah, I think I am.
What's this
It would be number 5.
No,
Yeah.
5.
No, number 8 on the thing.
Oh, well, he said number 1 in the motion.
Oh, did I?
Yeah, so
Okay.
just read
Well,
that
let
motion
me just
again.
repeat it then. I move we approve the action and adopt the 2014-2015 budget for the Clackamas County Service District Number 5 as presented in the resolution. The reason I was confused because you were asking about rates, and isn't there a separate one on rates?
There is.
Yes.
All right. Second, is there a second?
Second.
Motion made by Commissioner Bernard, seconded by Commissioner Smith. Discussion.
I just don't only want to just say that I know the administrator wanted to shed a light on this budget, and I wanted to shine a light on this budget, but I will yield to the administrator.
I think, it relates to both of these items very quickly, that this commission found out, I think in March, that PGE had raised their poll rate program by 14% or so, and raised the electricity rates. We found that out in March, but unfortunately, they started collecting in January. That left a hole in our budget, which is tough to recover from, because we can only go through this process, then institute the new rates, but we lost $125,000 to $150,000 from this program, from the benefits that our subscribers and users should enjoy, because of the lack of pretty important information. Hey, we're going to raise your rates, it's going to have an effect on you. So it has taken months, of course, to catch up with that. We never will catch up with the money we've lost from passing those costs on properly to the patrons of this particular district. Any further clarification on this matter? Otherwise, we'll ask Mary to take the poll.
Commissioner Savas.
Aye.
Commissioner Bernard.
Aye.
Commissioner Smith.
Aye.
Commissioner Schrader. Chair Ludlow.
Aye, passes 5-0. Wendy, number 2.
Thank you. Again, I'm Wendy Coriel, representing Clackamas County Service District Number 5. And now that the 2014-15 budget is adopted, Clackamas County Service District Number 5 needs to hold a public hearing on setting new rates proposed in the 2014-15 budget. As I previously indicated, the recommended budget of $3,656,590 for the 2014-15 fiscal year proposes a fee increase in all 10 rate categories. These rates are assessed annually. The following are the proposed rates for 2014 and 15. Rate Schedule A is $34.92 per tax lot each year. Rate Schedule B, $48.37 per tax lot each year. Rate Schedule C of $67.82 per tax lot each year. Rate Schedule D for commercial is $1.21 per frontage foot per tax lot each year. Rate Schedule E is $8.16 per tax lot each year. Rate Schedule F is $60.50 per tax lot each year. Rate Schedule H is $88.86 per tax lot each year. Rate Schedule J is $1.18 per tax lot each year. Rate Schedule K is $81.57 per tax lot each year. And finally, Rate Schedule R is $253.95 per tax lot each year. The Service District Number 5 Committee approved a recommendation for the proposed rate structure as illustrated in the attached proposed board order and budget report, and this rate schedule hearing was duly advertised in the Clackamas Review on June 18, 2014. Staff recommends that the Board of County Commissioners, acting in the capacity of the governing board for Clackamas County Service District Number 5, approve this order, which will adopt the new rate schedule for Clackamas County Service District Number 5 as presented. I'd be happy to answer any questions that you have.
Any clarification of questions from the presenter? All right. We're going to open the public hearing and ask if anyone wishes to speak on this issue. There being none, we'll close the public hearing and ask for the motion.
I move we approve and adopt the new rates schedule for street lighting service charges in Clackamas County Service District Number 5 as presented in the resolution.
Second.
All right, motion made by Commissioner Bernard, seconded by Commissioner Schrader. Commissioner Savas.
I just want to express, as did Commissioner Ludlow, that indeed the rates did go up, and this is we're passing those on through the rate schedule change to reflect the increase through PGE. And we also took a loss in that process, so well said.
Commissioner Bernard.
We also, I think I understand this, sold or polls and got more money back and set aside some money for looking at lighting McLaughlin Boulevard. And so that part is pretty exciting.
Yeah. Yeah, there is money, the disposal of some money that we, because of that windfall, in a sense, that we have yet to decide what we're going to use it for, but we'll address that this next fiscal year. There's a motion on the floor. Ladies and gentlemen, ready for the poll?
Yep.
All right, Mary?
Commissioner Bernard.
Aye.
Commissioner Smith.
Aye.
Commissioner Schrader.
Aye.
Commissioner Savas.
Aye.
Chair Ludlow.
Aye, passes 5-0. The board will adjourn as Service District Number 5 board and convene as Service District Number 1 board for the next 2 items. Mr. Krupp.
Yes, this first item is a public hearing to consider adoption of a resolution that would adopt and appropriate funds for the 2014-2015 fiscal year budget for Clackamas County Service District Number 1. Mr. Michael Reed, who is our interim director for Water and Environment Services, will give a brief presentation and answer any questions you may have.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair Ludlow and Commissioners, for this opportunity. Just a little bit of background on the districts. First off, my name is Michael Reed, and I'm the interim director for WES. We operate 3 different ORS 451 service districts, which provide sanitary sewer or surface water management services to residents of Clackamas County, primarily in unincorporated areas, but also under wholesale services to a number of cities. There are no general fund monies that are spent in any of our budgets. They're all enterprise funds, and our primary source of funds is through rate and revenue through other sources such as system development charges. There are some changes that I'll get into detail on that have been incorporated either at the Budget Committee meeting from the original budget or since then, and I will speak to them specifically. They're both in the Tri-City Service District budget when we get to that, but the other 2 budgets had no changes from what was approved by the Budget Committee. So with that, I'll move on to Service District Number 1, a resolution adopting and appropriating fiscal year 2014-15 budget and funds for Clackamas County Service District Number 1. The resolution and the exhibit adopts and appropriates funds for the enterprise fund budget for fiscal year 2014-15 for Clackamas County Service District Number 1, and further adopts and appropriates a debt service fund budget for Clackamas County Service District Number 1. The Budget Committee for Clackamas County Service District Number 1 met on June 2nd to consider the budget. The budget for CCSD Number 1 was approved as recommended by staff. Spending levels considered necessary by the Budget Committee for the district to meet its operations and maintenance, capital, and debt service requirements and to provide reserves amount to $59,688,596 for the service district. Staff respectfully recommends that the board approve the resolutions adopting and appropriating the budget and funds for fiscal year 2014-15 for Clackamas County Service District Number 1.
Commissioners, any clarification questions of the presenter? Otherwise, we will open the public hearing and ask if anyone wishes to speak on this issue. This is item number 10 on your agenda. There being none, we'll close the public hearing and ask for the motion. Commissioner Savas? No? A motion?
I move we approve the actions and adopt the 2014-2015 budget for Clackamas County Service District Number 1 as presented in the resolution.
Second.
All right. Motion made by Commissioner Savas, seconded by Commissioner Bernard. Paul, did you also wish to talk on that?
Yeah, I did. So I would just, through the history of both this budget and also the budget for Tri-Cities, there was always seemed to be an issue, because the very first budget, we approved a budget for a capital expenditure that was to deliver 20,000 EDUs of capacity, and since that time, I had questions related and regarding what the capacity may really be. And I know that necessarily we don't have those exact answers, but I think I have a much more greater comfort level in knowing where they really are, perhaps, or the range that they are than previously. So I approved the budget contingent upon the response that I was given last year regarding capacity, but unfortunately, maybe that number may not have been accurate. So with that said, I just want to clarify that we've still working on a solution and to working to identify what our needs are in Service District Number 1.
All right. Thank you. My gosh, where am I? Do we have a motion?
Yeah, we just need
It's
to
not
vote.
written down who to, oh, yes, here we go.
Ready.
All right. Any further discussion on this motion? I'll ask Mary to take the poll.
Okay, Commissioner Smith.
Aye.
Commissioner Schrader.
Aye.
Commissioner Savas.
Aye.
Commissioner Bernard.
Aye.
Chair Ludlow.
Aye. Passes 5-0. I announce that the board,
Oh, no,
we're still on that one? Or did we do both of those?
Number 11.
We're on number 11 now. Sorry, Michael, I didn't mean to throw you out.
It's okay.
And now, Mr. Krupp, the second one, yes.
We have the public hearing to consider a board order that would amend and adopt rates and charges for Clackamas County Service District Number 1. And Mr. Reed will give a brief report and answer any questions you may have.
Thank you. Well, now you've approved the budget, we need to approve the revenue source for funding that. We are actually proposing a $2 increase for the retail rate for Service District Number 1 for the sanitary sewer services portion of that district, from $40 per equivalent dwelling unit to $42 per equivalent dwelling unit. Service District Number 1 also has a surface water management function, and there are no proposed increases for the surface water management function in the next fiscal year.
All right, any clarifying questions, Commissioner Smith?
Yeah, why is there a $2 increase?
Well, the budget is built upon, the expenses and revenue basis for both operations and for a capital program. And for as far as specifics go, having reviewed the budget, it all adds up for the projects we have scheduled for the next year, the study work that we have for the next year, and then the operating expenses. I mentioned during the budget hearings that my concern is that for all these districts that we have some great capital challenges ahead of us, and one of the most important aspects of capital work is having adequate reserves so that you have the access to the full bonding market that might be out there. And for Service District 1's case, they do have adequate reserves for that purpose. But even then, we don't have the capital reserves today to pay cash for these. We'll be ultimately, as we finish designing and building projects, it'll be based upon funding through either bonds or state revolving loan funds. So,
another clarifying question. When we took the tour of the Oregon City plant, which is incredible, by the way, we talked with staff about not a wish list, but a necessary list of capital projects that should occur during the next 20 years. And I recall that the price tag, you're talking about capital projects, was well over like $110 million. And there is a schedule for certainly upkeep and enhancement of the existing system. And we are bringing that forward, but people must understand that this schedule, for example, of increases was developed before a majority of this commission got here. And it seems reasonable and prudent at the time, and I certainly appreciate Michael's role in the temporary nature of an interim director. But as we hire a new director, we do have some intertie considerations running the parallel lines with several of the lines, specifically, as we've called, out to the Damascus area, so we can adequately serve that, because there's, as Commissioner Savas has said many times, is the big question is, what's the capacity? What's our capacity? What's our capacity? We well know now that our capacity is determined by wet weather. You say, what's the capacity we have when we have infiltration going on? And that is your capacity. Because certainly in the summer months, your capacity is much larger. But that's a ghost. It doesn't mean much, does it? It matters when, as we tried to help cities cure their infiltration problems, so we're not processing stormwater. And I believe that the path that we've chosen and the expenditures that we have to make are reasonable and prudent. There's always room for tightening up, but I appreciate your good work so far and hanging in there until we get a new director.
Just one, if I could, on that, one comment to make is that the district, Service District 1 was built a number of years ago, and we're beginning to see the aging infrastructure that most utilities and cities are facing now when you have sewers been in the ground for 30 years or more. And I&I is the first evidence of that infiltration and inflow problem. And we have an asset management program which is budget funds for us over the next year to try to get to the bottom of where our challenges are, where that I&I is coming from, because as you mentioned, we don't have a problem in dry weather. We have a problem in wet weather, and the peak capacity is what is today the limiting factor on all of our facilities.
Exactly. All right, Commissioner Savas.
Yeah, I think that it's just not too unfamiliar to us coming off our discussions about the fair building and the fair board and our facilities and maintenance, and there's an element of that, and we were unable to actually approach the capital needs at Kellogg until we had a wastewater agreement in Milwaukee. So there was a lot of expenditures that were held off until there was resolution. So we also inherited a significant amount of debt, and the rates, primarily most of the rates pay most of that debt service. And then with the debt service we'll engage in the future, this ramps up in order to fund that. So it's not a pretty picture, but it's needed.
All right, we're going to open the public hearing and ask if anybody wishes to speak on this item number 11 on the agenda. All right, we'll close the public hearing and ask for the motion.
I move we amend and adopt the rates and charges for the Clackamas County Service District Number 1 as presented in the board order.
I'll second that.
Commissioner Bernard with the motion, Commissioner Savas with the second. Any further discussion? I'll ask the clerk to call the poll.
Commissioner Schrader.
Aye.
Commissioner Savas.
Aye.
Commissioner Bernard.
Aye.
Commissioner Smith.
Aye.
Chair Ludlow.
Aye, passes 5-0. And so we will adjourn as Service District Number 1 Board and convene as the Tri-City Service District Board on the next two items. Mr. Krupp.
Yes, Mr. Chair, we have a public hearing to consider a resolution that would adopt and appropriate funds for the 2014-2015 fiscal year budget for Tri-City Service District. And Mr. Michael Reed will give a brief report and answer any questions you may have.
Thank you. The first thing I wanted to mention is I said with my opening remarks that there are some changes in this budget proposed for Tri-City Service District. One of them is actually incorporated into the budget. The Budget Committee had taken our budget, which recommended a wholesale rate of $18.60 per equivalent dwelling unit, and the Budget Committee actually raised that to $19, which we appreciate because this is a district that truly needs to begin building reserves because they do not have the capacity now, at least in the bond market, to borrow money of any significance for their future projects. And so we appreciate that. And that is a change that is incorporated into the budget, but it is a different budget than what we took into the Budget Committee because of that revenue change. The other item that's changed in that budget is we talked during that Budget Committee meeting about a rate surcharge on Oregon City, and we talked in terms of $1.25 per equivalent dwelling unit per month for Oregon City, which recovered the costs associated with a budget estimate at that time of about $190,000 next fiscal year to collect that revenue from the city and then turn it back to them for what they call the right-of-way fee or a franchise fee. We've done further analysis since then, and based upon our budget and our expectations, that number is probably closer to $220,000. And there's another bit of a wrinkle on it in that we do owe them and are going to pay before the end of this fiscal year for the franchise fee from February through June 30th. And based upon our further analysis, it showed that instead of $1.25, which was only for next fiscal year, we determined that for next fiscal year that cost is actually $1.41 per equivalent dwelling unit, and that to reimburse the district for what we're going to pay this fiscal year to the city, it's another 35 cents. So the total added fee to reimburse the district for the right-of-way franchise fee from Oregon City is actually $1.76. That's in your resolution here today, but I wanted to point out that that is different than what we had talked about in the Budget Committee meetings. And it really is, we've refined our model and been able to determine that in this case, we needed to collect more. We would have been pulling down our reserves or our contingency in order to pay that fee next year. We think this is accurate, but of course, it's only retrospective. You can look back and look at your gross receipts, since and that right-of-way fee or franchise fee is based on 6% of our gross receipts. We don't know what our gross receipts are. We're predicting what they are, and that's how we derive that number. In the end, we're not charging any administrative fees to the City of Oregon City for that. We're collecting this money for them and turning it back to them. So it's a wash as far as the budget is concerned. For every dollar that comes in, a dollar is going to go back out to the city. So it doesn't really change the fundamental basis of the budget.
Clarifying questions, Commissioner Bernard.
Well, my question is, one of the reasons we're even having this discussion is because of hosting fee or franchise fee, whatever you want to call it, created by Oregon City. But what if they change it? Would we just come in and do an amendment to the budget? Should that occur?
Well, if they were to raise it so it was higher than the $1.76, we would have to come in and talk to the board about going to our contingency if it were to exceed our materials and services budget. Our materials and services budget number, if they raised it on us, if it fit within our materials and services budget, then we wouldn't need either a contingency, access, or a supplemental budget. However, what it would mean if it was more than $1.76 is that we would be paying out of our funds, because we are authorizing only collecting $1.76 on top of the $19. So in that particular case, we would be pulling money out of our budget and then would have to probably in the next fiscal year find a way to recover the additional costs that we spend in this year if we're trying to maintain an equal in and out relationship with those funds.
So on follow-up, are you conservative? Are you estimating higher than you think it could be, or are you being conservative and guessing that it's going to be somewhere in that range? The reason I ask that is because if you had to wait that time to come back next year for a budget, which would create a larger hole and the increase would be higher, wouldn't it make more sense just to say it's $2 and then differential rate for Oregon City because of this franchise fee? Wouldn't it make more sense just to make it $2 in case something like that happened? And then you wouldn't have to come back, and then they would, in fact, get more money back. It seems to me that'd make more sense.
Well, one of the things we were most concerned about in developing this fee is that it be defensible. And so we could show the math and how we arrived at that. And it's one of the reasons why we chose not to put an administrative handling fee on that, because we are collecting this money for them and then returning it to them. We just felt it was a lot cleaner to go in there with our calculations on the budget to the best of our ability, rather than having something we couldn't justify publicly if someone asked a question, where did you get that number?
Great, thank you. Good
All right, Commissioner Savas.
Well, I want to applaud Mr. Reed for being conservative, number one, and number two, not passing on or including any kind of administrative cost to further the hardship on the citizens of Oregon City. It's unfortunate that we are getting this bill, and if Oregon City or the City of Oregon City withdraws the fee or waives the fee, then we can reduce or eliminate this pass-through charge onto the citizens. Is that correct?
We would come back to the board for authorization for that.
Okay, thank you.
Budget adjustment, I think you'd call something like that. Well, and the people should know that currently we're under lawsuit. Clackamas County, along with Westland and Gladstone, the other two cities in the Tri-Cities, are suing Oregon City about this fee. And Mr. Krupp testified several times before their commission, we said it was unfair to tax a public entity and have them pay it twice, in a sense, for services. These pipes have been in those roads for a long time, and you ask yourself, what really does it cost for them to just leave them there? Because truly, if you look at a roadway, other than specific cave-ins, the real responsibility is keep it sealed. We've certainly talked about road maintenance a lot of times. Keep it sealed, and don't let the water do the damage it always does. As far as any kind of sidewalk work, even lighting, we don't think we're responsible for that. And yet this money supposedly, ostensibly, is going to be used for the correction of their own I&I problems in town. That's just fine. But you shouldn't be taking money from a public entity for their pipes in the ground to help your pipes in the ground that are failing. And we've talked about this many times, and we will continue to talk about it. But again, the lawsuit is out there. And again, the three partners, this time the county and Gladstone and West Lynn, will continue to object to this. We also have decided to take at least a look at the legislature to see if we could stop this flow currently from this unfortunate method of collecting public funds from the public and, to be used for some other public purposes. It's pretty complicated, but the bottom line is they often say in real estate, he who benefits pays. In this particular case, they want the benefit, but they want everybody to pay, and that would be the other cities who have their own problems and certainly have their own objections to rate increases. I'm going to open a public hearing and ask if somebody wishes to speak, and yes, we have somebody who wishes to speak on this. Miss Alice Richmond. Alice, did you want 15 minutes?
I'm not at all.
It doesn't have anything to do with age. But yes, have a seat and tell us what's on your mind. You have to get next to the microphone. Alice. Alice, microphone. Microphone. Yeah, microphone though.
Right. Alice Richmond, I'm going to make it wide instead of Western Clackamas County. Aside the franchise fee, which I think is out of order, but I'm going to let you guys handle that. It's not in my statement because there was a big front page in the newspapers, Wesleyan and Clackamas suing this. I think that's in order. So saying that, again, I want to make sure that Tri-City West Services is not recreation nor entertainment. It is the most important hygiene, sanitation for us humans, not even pets. So, on June 2nd, 2014, West of Tri-City Service District presented its budget to its budget committee and to its county commissioners to be approved as proposed with the increased rates. Today, as a county citizen and a Wesleyan resident, as well as a member of West Budget Committee, I'm here to ask the commissioners to adopt this budget in front of you because it benefits all West service users. It is also in a responsible manner to maintain for the quality and the maintenance necessary to continue to provide this sanitary system with safety and safely condition and with future knowledge anticipation of needs. Keeping us with short terms and long term maintenance and proceed with capital improvement is a cautious way in doing good houseworks of all necessary to run this service. Remember, it's for human beings. Every time you flush your toilet, just remember that. It's not just water. So I recommend the commissioners to adopt this fiscal 2014-15 budget. It benefits all users of Tri-City. Thank you for this opportunity to bring further comments. And I am Alice Richmond, a member of West Budget Committee as well. Again, the franchise thing, business, it is way out of order. I live in the county since December 58. I never heard of such a thing preposterous as this. There's another page perhaps, but then I heard staff speaking also and back and forth. I don't know whether we can talk while it is maybe in lawsuit, but I'm going to leave that to the people I trust, elected people. And saying that, talking about elected people, I'm going to come back. I'm not finishing here this year yet. I'm going to come back after 4th of July. Until then, I'm very busy. You're all invited to speak if you got one on my 4th of July, forget it. Is that I heard this, I mean, I witnessed, I was there at one of the meetings. Something came up, and it made a lot of sense. And I'm going to bring that back to you guys. Thank you.
Thank you, Alice. Let the record show that Alice is somebody who says she trusts her elected officials, and I really appreciate
I
that,
said
Alice.
at the beginning, for the record, did I miss that?
No, I want the record to show that somebody said they trust us, that's all. I appreciate it.
So far.
Oh.
Don't push it, young man. Don't push it.
In a lot of years of relationship, I guess I've pushed a few times, haven't I?
Like I forget who they. I don't come here often as I would like to, perhaps. Oh, there's another thing that I want to do, and it cut my thing.
Look what I've done.
It isn't so much about that you don't have people in here to kind of testify or whatever. But often they're not. I say 98%. It is the communication. A lot of people don't know about this thing. A lot of people, I didn't care about this in the records, it was for you guys, is that you need to do something about communication. Don't say about website, email, this and that. People punch the clock, they go to work, they hurry, get the kids out, they come home, it's their dinner, it's their lunch, it's this, it's so forth, and so on. We don't go on the, first of all, for me, I don't even own a what you call those box, computer, and boxes, because I did one time because somebody gave me a computer laptop, and I wasted 3 hours after they left.
Oh, there's more waste than that going on.
You know what I could have done for 3 hours?
I don't know, but we're way off the subject matter, Alice.
But what I'm saying is that there is a lack of communication of people who come, and the second issue in here is people work during the daytime. The time schedule is not appropriate. If you had this, maybe a meeting every 2 months at night.
We have one every month at night, Alice.
At night you do? See?
Yes.
I didn't even know what God forbid.
The third Thursday of the month, we meet in the evening just for that reason.
But you see what I'm saying? If I even didn't know that, and I'm pretty much acquainted and informed in the county and the state, maybe there is a little bit of not quite
Thank you, Alice.
reaching the people.
We'll keep trying to
Not that you-
communicate.
Let me also put the thing again.
Okay.
Maybe you don't want them either.
Okay, we're going to close the public hearing now and ask for a motion.
I move we approve the actions and adopt the 2014-2015 budget for the Clackamas County Tri-City Service District as presented in the resolution.
Second.
All right, motion's been made by Commissioner Savas, seconded by Commissioner Bernard. Michael, the 141 versus the 125. I recall, I was pretty sure, and I understand that you had to do your math, and that's why it changed. But I recall that during the Budget Committee deliberations, it was still at 125, correct?
That's correct. Yes.
And it's since gone up to 141. And because of the methodology, the math, and understanding that is allowed, and is, because the recommendation from the Budget Committee was 125. We are asked as the commission to change that upwards because of your new math, correct?
Yeah, well, part of the issue was that we did have an error in a cell on our spreadsheet that was looking at growth, and it had that growth at 8% when it was really 0.8%. And when we discovered that, that changed the mathematical formula. And there's thousands of cells in our budget, and we fortunately caught that before the budget went through, and that had some influence on that. But it also had to do with applying the budget numbers. We also had new revenue coming in because when we increased the rate by 40 cents, that brought more revenue in, which increased our gross receipts.
Affected everything.
6% on that new gross receipts, it increased the number too.
All right. Any further clarification or questions or comments, commissioners, before we go through the poll? Mary?
Commissioner Savas.
Aye.
Commissioner Bernard.
Aye.
Commissioner Smith. Aye. Commissioner Schrader. Aye. Chair Ludlow.
Aye, passes 5. Thank you, Alice. Thank you. And so we'll go on to the second one.
You meant to squeeze this thing
Oh.
while I'm waiting. I'm getting exactly where-
Thanks for waiting, Alice. I gave you extra time.
So I'm going to dedicate this public hearing to the last speaker at the last public hearing we just had. So, and this is a public hearing regarding a proposed board order that would amend and adopt rates and charges for the Tri-City Service District, and Mr. Reed will be here to give you the report.
This order changes the equivalent dwelling unit monthly charge for wholesale sanitary sewer service within the Tri-City Service District from $17.35 to $19 per equivalent dwelling unit. The City of Oregon City will be charged an additional amount of $1.76 per EDU to offset the city's right-of-way usage fee. The Tri-City Budget Committee recommended these increases with the exception of the $125 I mentioned earlier, and has reviewed the fiscal year budget associated with this increase. The monthly service charge for retail sanitary sewer service will be adjusted from $27 to $28.95. They don't have that many retail customers in the Tri-City Service District, but we do have a few. The change in charges for monthly sanitary sewer service for Tri-City Service District is pursuant to the fiscal year 2014-15 budget approved by the district's budget committee on June 2nd, 2014, and adopted by the board potentially today, adopted by the board recently in their action on June 26. We respectfully recommend that the board approve the order adopting monthly service charges for fiscal year 2014-2015 for Tri-City Service District and for services rendered and to go into effect after July 1, 2014.
Any clarification questions of the presenter? All right, we're going to open public hearing and ask if anyone wishes to speak on this item. We are on item number 13. There being none, I'll close the public hearing and ask for the motion.
I move we amend and adopt the rates and charges for Clackamas County Tri-City Service District as presented in the board order.
Second.
All right, motion is made by Commissioner Schroeder, seconded by Commissioner Bernard. Clarification or discussion, I should say discussion from the commissioners. All right, there being none, I'll ask for the poll.
Commissioner Bernard.
Aye.
Commissioner Smith.
Aye.
Commissioner Schrader.
Aye.
Commissioner Savas.
Aye.
Chair Ludlow.
Aye, passes 5-0. I'm going to adjourn the Tri-City Service District Board and convene as a Surface Water Management Agency Board on this issue. Mr. Krupp.
Yes, Mr. Chair, this is our final public hearing of the morning, and this is to consider a proposed resolution that would adopt and appropriate funds for the 2014-2015 fiscal year budget for the Surface Water Management Agency of Clackamas County. Mr. Reed is here to give you a report.
Just a brief statement on the Surface Water Management Agency of Clackamas County. This is a Surface Water Management Agency that was originally formed to deal with the total maximum daily load, TMDL, limits on the Tualatin River. It's a relatively small district. We don't have a whole lot of activities in there, so compared to the budgets we've just approved, it's a relatively small budget. The resolution and exhibit adopts and appropriates funds for the enterprise fund budget for fiscal year 2014-15 for the Surface Water Management Agency of Clackamas County. The Budget Committee for the Surface Water Management Agency of Clackamas County met on June 2nd, 2014 to consider its budget. The budget for SWIMAC was approved as recommended by staff. Spending levels considered necessary by the Budget Committee for the agency to meet its operating and maintenance capital and debt service requirements and to provide reserves amount to $179,171 for the Surface Water Management Agency of Clackamas County. There's no rate increase proposed for SWIMAC. Therefore, staff respectfully recommends that the board approve the resolution adopting and appropriating the budget and funds for fiscal year 2014-15 for the Surface Water Management Agency of Clackamas County.
Clarification questions of the presenter? All right, we'll open the public hearing and ask if anyone wishes to speak on this issue. There being none, I'll close the public hearing and ask for the motion.
I move we approve the action and adopt the 2014-2015 budget for the Clackamas County Surface Water Management Agency as presented in the resolution.
Second.
Motion made by Commissioner Bernard, seconded by Commissioner Smith. Discussion or clarification, comments? All right, I'll ask Mary to take the poll.
Commissioner Smith.
Aye.
Commissioner Schrader.
Aye.
Commissioner Savas.
Aye.
Commissioner Bernard.
Aye. I thought you had already asked me.
Chair Ludlow.
We're almost at the end of this. Aye, passes 5-0. I'll announce the board will adjourn as the Surface Water Management Agency Board and reconvene finally, as the Board of County Commissioners
Thanks.
for the remainder of the meeting. And so we have the consent agenda. I'll ask the clerk to read the consent agenda by title.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. Today, after health...
There's a substitute. Welcome, Ernie Hayes.
Yes, Ernie Hayes.
There's a
We're
reason
gonna
for this.
go
This
ahead
is a
and
long one.
Take
Ernie,
a minute to read the consent agenda.
we know you can handle it.
Under Health, Housing, and Human Services, we have approval of a construction contract with TS Gray Construction for the rehabilitation of the historic Francis Merdinger House project in Oregon City. Approval of a subrecipient agreement with Northwest Housing Alternatives to fund the home base program in Clackamas County. Approval of intergovernmental agreement amendment number 2 with the State of Oregon Department of Human Services, Aging and People with Disabilities Division for the provision of services to Clackamas County residents 60 and over. We have approval of intergovernmental agreement amendment number 1 with the State of Oregon Department of Human Services, Aging and People with Disabilities Division for the provisions of the Oregon Money Management Program as the regional coordinator for the 4-county Metro Aging and Disabilities Resource Connection Consortium. Approval of an intergovernmental subrecipient agreement with City of Gladstone and Gladstone Senior Center to provide social services for Clackamas County residents age 60 and over. Approval of an intergovernmental subrecipient agreement with the City of Wilsonville and Wilsonville Community Center to provide social services for Clackamas County residents age 60 and over. Approval of amendment number 1 to the intergovernmental agreement with the Portland State University School of Social Work and Regional Research Institute for Human Services to provide training and consultation to Clackamas County Behavioral Health Center staff. Approval to apply to the fiscal year 2014 Health Center Expanded Services Grant for the Health Resources and Services Administration. Approval of an amendment to the subrecipient agreement with Northwest Family Services Incorporated for PreventNet summer program activities. Approval of amendment number 2 to the subrecipient agreement with Todos Juntos Incorporated for PreventNet summer program activities. Approval of an intergovernmental agreement contract amendment with the State of Oregon Department of Education Youth Development Division for prevention and intervention services. Approval of an agency service contract with Children's Center for Child Abuse Medical Assessments. Approval of a subrecipient agreement with the Clackamas Children's Commission for screening and home visiting services for high-risk families. Approval of an amendment to the intergovernmental agreement with the State of Oregon Department of Human Services for strengthening, preserving, and unifying family program services. Approval of a renewal of the intergovernmental agreement with Multnomah County for public health officer. Approval to apply for the Public Innovative Projects and Pilots for Services to Seniors and People with Disabilities grant from the State of Oregon Department of Human Services. Approval of an agency service agreement with James Bourne for outpatient mental health services. Approval of an agency service agreement with Cascadia Behavioral Health Care for assistive community treatment programs. Approval of an agency service agreement with Catholic Community Services of Western Washington for crisis stabilization services. Approval of an interagency agreement with Clackamas County Children, Youth, and Families Division for alcohol and drug prevention strategies for young adults. Approval of an interagency agreement with Clackamas County Children, Youth, and Family Division for alcohol and drug prevention strategies for families. Approval of a subrecipient grant agreement with CODA Incorporated for outpatient mental health services and outpatient substance abuse services. Approval of a subrecipient grant agreement with Folk Time Incorporated for peer support services at the Oregon City Drop-In Center. Approval of a subrecipient grant agreement with Folk Time for peer support services at the Cornerstone Crisis Clinic. Approval of an agency service contract with LifeWorks Northwest for assertive community treatment programs. Approval of an agency service contract with LifeWorks Northwest for early assessment and support alliance programs. Approval of an agency service contract with LifeWorks Northwest for intensive case management, transition age youth, home-based stabilization services, child level D, and outpatient mental health services. Approval of an agency service contract with LifeWorks Northwest for psychiatric day services and treatment, early assessment, and support alliance programs. Approval of an agency service contract with LifeWorks Northwest for outpatient mental health services and outpatient substance abuse services. Approval of a behavioral health services agreement with Morrison Child and Family Services for psychiatric day treatment for children and respite services for children. Approval of an agency service agreement with Morrison Child and Family Services for home-based stabilization services, child level D, and outpatient mental health services. Approval of an agency service agreement with Oregon Health and Science University for outpatient mental health. Approval of an agency service agreement with Options Counseling Services for Oregon for home-based stabilization services, child level D, and outpatient mental health services. Approval of an agency service agreement with Portland Dialectical Behavioral Therapy Institute for outpatient mental health services. Approval of an agency service agreement with Western Psychological Counseling Services for outpatient mental health services. Approval of a professional service agreement with Youth Move Oregon for a drop-in center and peer support. Approval of an agency service agreement with Youth Villages and for home-based stabilization services, child level D, and psychiatric residential treatment services. Approval of a facilities use agreement with North Clackamas School District Number 12 for the Women, Infant, and Children program. Approval of professional service agreement with Oregon Family Support Network for family partners. Approval of a renewal interagency agreement with Clackamas County Health Center to provide primary health care for Canby, Oregon City, and Sandy school-based health centers. And approval of an intergovernmental subrecipient agreement with North Clackamas Parks and Recreation District, Milwaukee Center to provide social services for Clackamas County residents age 60 and over. Under elected officials, we have a request by the Clackamas County Sheriff's Office to enter into an annual operating plan and financial plan with the Oregon State Marine Board for the Clackamas County Boating Safety 2014 Action Plan. Under County Council, we have approval of the designation of newspaper for the 2014 property tax foreclosure publication. Under the Department of Emergency Management, we have approval of a State Homeland Security Grant Program Agreement, Amendment Number 1 with the State of Oregon for Web EOC maintenance. Approval of fiscal year 2011 Urban Area Security Initiative Local Grant Agreement with the City of Wilsonville. And approval of an intergovernmental agreement with River Grove Water District for the use of Clackamas County Emergency Notification System. For the Juvenile Department, we have approval of an amendment with the intergovernmental agreement with Multnomah County for 17 secure custody detention beds. Under Technology Services is approval of an ORMAP intergovernmental agreement contract between Clackamas County and the Oregon Department of Revenue for digital GIS tax lot conversions. For the North Clackamas Parks and Recreation District, approval of an intergovernmental agreement with the City of Milwaukee to provide assistance for construction management services for Phase 2 improvements at Milwaukee Riverfront Park. Water Environment Services, we are requesting affirmation of a settlement agreement between Clackamas County Service District Number 1 and Kaiser Foundation Health Plan of the Northwest for wastewater service overbilling, and approval of Amendment Number 1 to the retainer agreement between Clackamas County Service District Number 1, Tri-City Service District, and Richmond Environment for consulting services. And that concludes the consent agenda.
Excellent.
Well done, Ernie. I might point out that, Mary usually gets a little tired reading that long, but that was a world record. And it really, Mary had him do that because this is Ernie's one-year anniversary here at the county.
Wow, really?
Ernie's an outstanding young man who fortunately for us, is just hungry to do more. And we kind of like that here at the county. So congratulations, Ernie, on your one-year anniversary, and well done. Is there a motion?
I move approval of the consent agenda.
I second it.
So Commissioner Bernard with the motion, Commissioner Smith with the second. Any further discussion?
I just thought maybe we just want to, if we had time, just kind of go over each of those one by one.
Yeah, go ahead, Paul.
We'll be leaving.
We'll see you later, Paul.
Yeah, all right, so if we're ready, we will have the poll read by Mr. Ernie Hayes.
Commissioner Savas?
Aye.
Commissioner Schrader?
Aye.
Commissioner Smith?
Aye.
Commissioner Bernard?
Aye.
Chair Ludlow?
Aye, passes 5-0. So we are making good time. It's now time for the county administrator update on his elbow. No, update, that's what I meant.
I've got about 2 or 3 dozen items to talk with you
Yeah,
about this
okay.
afternoon. Actually, I will defer my remarks for this afternoon.
All right, sounds good. So we will go through the commissioners and start with Commissioner Schrader.
Oh, well, just a few things. I had a wonderful lunch at Roseville the other day with my friend Margaret Pritchard, and she has worked something out where I will be there the last Wednesday of every month and answering questions for the folks at Roseville because Margaret told me to. So I'm going to be doing that. Yesterday, I had a very interesting meeting with staff, economic development folks with Catherine and Gary Barth, Catherine Comer and Gary Barth and Trent. We met with Vicki Walker, who is the USDA State Director of Rural Development. Trent has already been on the muscle with this and has sent out emails to appropriate departments about rural housing dollars that the USDA evidently has available, and also building and development dollars. And we immediately thought of the barn at the fairgrounds. I don't know if there is any possibility there, but it's worth looking into. And also, they do infrastructure work in rural communities with sewer and water. Seems to me we have an issue up in Hoodland. So he's been busy contacting these various departments with all of these programs the USDA has, and I'm hopeful it will help us capture additional dollars and make that happen for the county. So especially think, I don't know if anything can happen with the barn, but I think we ought to look into it. I had a meeting with the gentleman who purchased the Willamette Falls property. I look forward to working with economic development and my colleagues to craft a memorandum of understanding that reflects our economic development priorities. The two things that they have asked us to do with our partner at Metro and Oregon City is to really add the capacity for the economic development piece of what could happen down there, and also to help lobby for federal dollars. And I would really like to work with staff and my colleagues to make sure that that there are some pretty strong sidebars about what the expectation would be for growth and business down in that area should we continue to support this project with our scarce dollars. So that's pending. Also had a good meeting with Mike MacArthur from the Association of Oregon Counties, where we talked about having a committee bill dealing with the issue of one public entity charging a franchise fee to another public entity. We've talked about the issue we've been dealing with Oregon City at this point, not only with the county, but with our other two cities. And evidently, this is turning into a statewide issue. So we have taken the initiative to see what we can help craft and work with the Association of Oregon Counties to move this forward as a significant issue at the state level. And that's the news from the CLAC.
CLAC, is it? All right. Commissioner Smith.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Well, last week we had a luncheon we all attended at the elected officials. The other elected officials of Clackamas County, which are Sherry Hall, our clerk, Sherry Anderson, our treasurer, Bob Vorman, our assessor, John Foote, our assessor, the sheriff. Not everybody attended, but I will say attendance by the county commissioners is usually pretty good. We're pretty attentive to those things. At the Association of Oregon Counties, we're now setting up a subcommittee, of which I'm on, to discuss the possibility of a resolution asking the federal government to return our federal forest lands to state control. I look forward to that. I will update you on that issue as the meetings occur. We're at least going to have some discussion and see what can be done about our wonderful resources in the county and statewide that could have serious health effects, forest health effects, if they were to be left to burn and not managed for multiple use. And that's about it.
Thank you. Commissioner Savas.
Well, by virtue of the some of the goals that we had set, I've been working lately on trying to understand our land use system as it relates to transportation and vice versa. And so I've been continuing to meet with people to try to learn how these systems work. And, it's no surprise, frankly, that I think we're maybe there's too many groups, too many committees, and too many interactions that make this very, very confusing. And I think I may have discovered really a flaw in how some of this particular system that we've, by happenstance, kind of created, that there's not a really deep review of some of the conclusions that have significant impacts on the county and the region for years and years to come. And I'm speaking specifically about House Bill 1011 that was passed, which is about urban-rural reserves. We collect, the region kind of gathers up what the aspirations are for the cities and the communities and the counties, and we submit those. There's not really a look back to say, when it all gets assembled as a regional model, how does that really work from a functional standpoint? Is it attainable? How's that interact with other counties and cities, or even neighboring cities for that matter? And there really hasn't really been that deep review to see how functional it is. And it's quite similar to the transportation plan. We take our local jurisdictional transportation system plans, we submit those, and they become part of a greater regional transportation plan. And that deep review is really needed there as well. So I think in order to make the regional models work, I think we're going to have to do a better job of reviewing and making sure that these are functional. Now, maybe perhaps in other counties that's taking place and they are attuned to that, but I think the discovery I've made, both in the past, most recent transportation plan that was just superseded by the current one, and also the Urban Rural Reserves decision, that there's been some oversights and things we've missed. And I don't think that Clackamas County is in a position to benefit or to actually achieve those aspirations. So I will be continuing to reach out to all these regional departments and folks to try to better understand the system, see if I'm wrong, see if I've missed something, and continue to educate myself before I perhaps conclude what seems to be the obvious. So I'll keep you posted, and as the weeks move on.
Thank you. Commissioner Bernard.
First, I appreciated my opponent coming and congratulating me. I think one thing about the election is the turnout was terrible. I think it's our responsibility to vote, and if people had done that, it wouldn't have been so close. I could have lost, I could have won, I don't know. I'm guessing I would have won. But anyway, it is your responsibility to vote. In some countries, they actually charge you a fine if you don't vote. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, because some people probably shouldn't vote.
I second the motion. Oh, no.
Okay, anyway.
No.
But one thing about today's budget process that, people may not realize, but I'll bet you that we're on more boards than anybody else, 10 to be exact, where we are the board of various districts, and then also all the boards that we are on outside of this, what we did here today. We're just on a lot and involved in a lot, veterans, AOC, public safety. I mean, there's just, I bet you all of us are on probably 20 in total if we add these 10. It's amazing. I was thinking I might make a name tag with all my boards, just all on one. Because how many times do people say to you, what do you do? What's a commissioner do?
We meet.
Here's my name tag, read it. So, I mean, it's, I do think we could do a lot better job telling people what commissioners do, and sometimes I have to sit down and think about all the things we do, but we do a better job. I think we should do public service messages about what we do, and I don't think we use our cable enough to talk about all the things that commissions do, all the issues we have to address, including the transportation, public safety, mental health. The chair and I were talking this morning about, most of the people in our jails and our prisons across the nation are either in there for mental health or addiction problems. And the addiction or mental health, may be the foundation of the murder or what abuse and all those things that have occurred, put them in that position. And what we do is we lock them up, throw the key away instead of. I think one thing we could say that this commission's done is that we've changed the focus on addressing domestic violence. Children of abuse and seniors, and try to break that cycle, and programs like community corrections and all those things where instead of just giving up, throwing the key away, we've invested in programs that work, and we do it for many reasons, but one important reason is it makes financial sense. It does make financial sense to invest early. It's just like roads. If you fix them now, they're cheaper and they're safer, and they're all those things that will cost you a lot more if you do it later. It's no different with a human being. Invest now or pay later. That's what it is, and that I think is really addressed in our budget. that we are doing some of that, and even the 500,000, while it's a little bit of money, at least starts the process. And community correction budget, we've done that, and we've done a lot of work, good work, that I hope we will see I know we will see the benefit of in the future.
Good.
Thank you. Well, real quickly, several of the commissioners visited a real fascinating place this last week called Orchard Orthopedic Solutions. We couldn't take any pictures, but it was very fascinating work. They do something, they're a very growing company in Clackamas County. Now, unlike most of these companies who put out artificial hips, joints, et cetera, they do that. But it's incredible, they do custom work. So they claim, and the doctors know, that when they do a hip transplant, they tend to take too much leg bone. This company makes specific implants to match as much saving the bone as possible. So they literally will customize and send out a hip joint replacement in 16 days. So from the time it's ordered till the time it's in the doctor's hands is 16 days. It's really outstanding, and that portion of their business is growing face. Well, I don't, they measure them, Jim. They don't cut it down and leave them laying. As you may know, recently our Sheriff's Department received an accreditation, which was a big accomplishment. Similar to that, the Board of Public Health for Clackamas County, as we are, our Public Health Division is currently participating in a national accreditation process. This will help us realize best practices, position ourselves for potential funding opportunities, and to align with the future of public health in this nation, which is constantly moving and flexing. There's nothing too sure as we speak. I participated in an interview on Monday that allowed Administrator Krupp and I to speak to the relationship that the board has with the public health program and H3S, that being Health, Housing, Human Services. We're pleased with the outstanding service this department provides to our citizens. The final determination should be out soon. I might add, like we did in the budget process, we loaned $2.5 million to the public health clinic, part of H3S, and with the understanding that there would be a complete revisit of their operations and their practices. They've done that and done outstanding work on serving more people with less people. That's the bottom line in any business principle, is because time is money. And profit is not necessary here, but sustainability is. The Oregon League of Minority Voters will be hosting their annual Liberty and Hope dinner tonight. Several commissioners will be there. Also, several commissioners will be attending an event with Electric Entertainment to promote our film and media economic cluster, which Martha was talking about previously. The meet and greet and tour of the librarian set. I don't know who the librarian set is, but it sounds good to me. Clackamas County, as far as their employees, are good community partners here in Oregon City, and Clackamas County supports and our employees support Relay for Life this weekend at Clackamas Community College. Clackamas County is a sponsor for Oregon City Westland Relay for Life on June 28th through 29th at Clackamas Community College. Show your support for the county's walk team and help honor survivors of cancer. It's sometimes just, and I'm an announcer for the Wilsonville one, I love the event, and it's great to see them wake up in the morning really early and get going, but the walking around that track for a continual basis, which I also participate in, is fun to watch, and certainly they have a lot of entertainment at these kind of affairs. You'll be able to experience fighting back against cancer, honoring survivors, and light a luminaria for loved ones who are fighting or those who have lost their fight with cancer. There will be bands, fun family activities, maybe a few balloons, inspirational speakers, and of course, lots of walking. The Town Hall, our next one, is Wednesday, September 10th at Estacada, sponsored by the Estacada Chamber of Commerce, Estacada City Hall. We'll give you more information later on that. In fact, it's on the screen as I speak. Another announcement is there will be no business meeting next week due to the July 4th holiday. So we will not have our typical meeting on July 3rd. We'll reconvene the following week for a full agenda. We'll still be meeting that week, but specifically not for our business meeting, typically held on Thursday. Now, I like the fact that I predict this meeting would be 3.5 hours long, and then with a break, we're almost there. Should we just go ahead and keep going for 11 more minutes? Okay. That was quick. There's a consensus that I saw. All right, ladies and gentlemen, good work for the commissioners. Great work from our staff in presenting the budget. getting it approved through the Budget Committee, and then our finalization now today of all of those budgets. I appreciate your time today, and for those viewers, and the single person left in the audience is Molly Harbarger of the Oregonian. She stuck with us the whole way. Congratulations, Molly. We should. All right, ladies and gentlemen, there being no further business before this commission, this meeting is adjourned.